used with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back. Yes, to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. I want to thank everybody for joining us. A couple of things I see in the chat. B. Arthur, I think we may have solved it. We're going to be talking about that. I've been trying to talk about it for the last couple of days, but so much stuff with Epstein, I never got to it. Yes, Savannah Guthrie's mother kidnapped, mentioned it on the show, but they have a suspect now, and it's very closely related to her, as if it wasn't odd enough that her and her husband's company were both mentioned in the Epstein files. Of course, he very quickly took all of the websites and everything related to his company down right away, and then shortly after the mom gets kidnapped, it definitely does look like coincidental timing. Of course, there are no coincidences. What else was there? There was something else I saw in the chat. Oh, was Mom Dami named in the files? His mother was named in the files, but really, I mean, it's kind of just, you know, they have a connection, but there's not a lot to dig into there, at least not yet. People were sharing all of these AI generated images suggesting that Mom Dami was Epstein's son. I don't think that's the case. All those pictures were fake. You know, it's really not a whole lot of information, but I thought it was funny that the people who supported him were like protesting against him because they were like, "You're in the files, you're in the files." I thought that was hilarious. But anyways, I've got some really disturbing things that I found in these emails last night, guys. Also, tons of other stuff to talk about. So do me a favor, sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn, because we're going to be right back after this. You know, guys, I get a lot of questions about the things that we talk about here on the show, especially when it comes to things related to health. And one of those items that I tend to get more questions about than just about anything else is ivermectin, either where to get it or when to use it. And so I am constantly sending out links, replying to those emails. And I figured, you know what, I'm just going to work together with someplace that I know I can trust, and that is quickrxstore.com. That way I can get you guys the information, and then I can also get you a discount at the same time. And what's even better is that they offer a lot more than just ivermectin. Pretty much everything you might want to find is in the description box below at quickrxstore.com. That is super easy, quickrxstore.com. A huge selection of things you guys might be looking for can be found just in the description below. If you click that link in the description box below and then also use the code GET10, GET10 at checkout, you're also going to get 10% off your order. They've got a huge selection of different things you might want to order. Their quality is guaranteed, and obviously you can save a lot of money. But with that code GET10, you're going to save even more, and they're also going to give you pretty fast shipping. They've done a lot of really great work for us here in the past. I've ordered from them on many different occasions, and I've been able to send a lot of people there. So if you're looking for ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, you're going to want to head that way today. They also want to make sure you guys know they have fenbendazole, because it's another thing I get a lot of questions about. So definitely, if you're looking for Fenben, you can pick it up right there. I want you to check out this clip I'm going to play with Joe Tippins, who is another person you may have heard me talk about on many different occasions.
Because I'd already done my own research that once you have wide metastasis small cell lung cancer, you're literally a goner. The 0% chance of survival and 3 to 6 month life expectancy, and I was basically told to go home and get my affairs in order and think about hospice.
Wow.
And the next day, I got a call from a large animal veterinarian in western Oklahoma, who's a college friend and family friend. And he told me this crazy story about a scientist at Merck on the veterinary side who has been doing cancer research on mice, and she had hundreds of mice that she'd implanted cancers in all their body parts, brain, stomach, liver, pancreas, etc. And her mouse population came down with intestinal parasites. And so she had no choice but to save her research. She gave all of her mice fenbendazole. If you went out to any zoo in the world, they bring in fenbendazole by the truckload, front-end loader, head-high piles in bays, because they give that drug to every single animal in the animal kingdom.
And one of the oldest and safest drugs around, right?
Yes, been around for 40 years. And so she did, and unfortunately, or fortunately for all of us, she also learned that she accidentally killed all the cancer.
Well, that was a surprise, right?
Yeah, it's just a serendipitous surprise, right?
So fenbendazole is a dewormer. Intestinal worms are obviously parasites. They can live inside of your body without any obvious signs. And a lot of people have got no idea they're dealing with something like that. But when you leave it unchecked, they can lead to complications ranging from bowel obstruction to loss of appetite, loss of weight, lung infection, even liver congestion. Now, having spoken about fenbendazole on many different occasions, you know, over time, people have talked about their own personal experiences, saying that it's helped them in so many different ways. And many, like Joe, have even mentioned benefits in serious situations, including cancer. Now, as always, people should do their own research and make informed decisions. But I wanted to share that important context while you're watching this. So once again, guys, check them out in the link below. QuickRxStore.com. Use that code GET10. Save 10% off your entire order. And thank you very much for supporting the sponsors of this show. All right, and welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, thank you to Country Girl 007. She drops a cookie and says, Happy Hump Day. Happy Hump Day indeed to everybody out there in the audience. And Trump One also says, Happy Hump Day, Zach. Thank you very much, brother. Appreciate you. Sherry K47 over on Rumble also says, Hey, Zach, so love all you do. This is off topic, but I'm wondering if you and John have ever done a baseless show on Israel Keys. My sleeping coworker brought it up today, and I told him about the show. I don't even know what Israel Keys is. Is Israel Keys an individual? Is it islands in the Middle East? I don't know. I will definitely do some research, and we will be doing a show on Israel Keys in the future. I just put it on my master list of baseless conspiracies to take a look at. All right, let us begin today with a little bit of domestic news. First of all, yesterday, late in the day, I heard that Senator Mitch McConnell, of course, he is 83. He is failing. He is not going to be around much longer, and he's also not going to be in the Senate much longer. He's just being hospitalized with flu-like symptoms, and they said in an abundance of caution after experiencing flu-like symptoms over the weekend, Senator McConnell checked himself into a local hospital for evaluation last night, and his prognosis apparently is positive. Don't know if he's going to remain in the hospital for any length of time, but I thought that, Keys is a serial killer. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let me just make note of that. Serial killer. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. So I thought it was kind of notable that, and then Sherry K also says he was a serial killer. Thank you for that. Now, I love it when Zach speculates on what someone might mean in a rant. Well, my brain is always working. I'm like, I must understand. If I don't understand, I have to throw a couple of things out there. Anyways. So Mitch McConnell is part of the committee that has apparently been holding up the SAVE Act. Of course, there is a lot of conversation going on about the SAVE Act right now. It would appear that they've had a methodology to overcome the 60-vote filibuster for quite some time, and it's being said, as we talked about yesterday, Anna Paulina Luna had said that they were going to do that. They're going to get it passed through. John Thune is acting like maybe they're going to do it. He's kind of like on the fence about it. But it's my understanding that until it's released from Senator McConnell's committee, they're not even going to be able to do whatever witchcraft they were planning on doing to pass it without the 60-vote filibuster. So I'm half wondering if Senator McConnell's hospital stay might have something to do with attempting to stop the SAVE Act from even being voted on. Until we learn more, that's basically all I've got for you on this, other than to say Mitch McConnell's presence in the hospital also means that there is one less vote that could go either way. I would expect Mitch McConnell to vote against the SAVE Act because that guy is a creep. He's a total piece of you know what. He would hopefully be voting in favor of it, but I just don't see Mitch McConnell doing that. He basically votes against anything that the president is supporting. Now, just as a brief moment of zen, I would like to play for you a memory from last fall when Senator Mitch McConnell took a fall.
Go for it. Excuse me, Senator? My name is Stella. I want to ask, do you support ICE taking working people off the streets and kidnapping them?
Now, if you didn't know any better, that kind of looked like Mitch McConnell fell on purpose so that he didn't have to answer any questions about ICE. But he is also very old and he tends to fall a lot. So it could have gone either way. Don't really know. All I know now is that Mitch McConnell is not going to be in Congress much longer. And it looks like the guy that I told you about several months ago, I believe his name is Nate. Who's the guy the trash man? Let's see. Kentucky Senate race, Nate. Here it is. Nate Morris. Looks like Nate Morris is ahead in the race. Of course, it's the primary that's going to be coming up. And from what I understand, Elon Musk also pumped a bunch of money into his campaign. So obviously that gives him the opportunity to run a bunch more advertising, get some additional name recognition. It's a three-way ballot right now. And apparently Cameron is the one who's in the lead, then Barr, then Morris. But Morris has now gone ahead to 28. Cameron is second with 26 and Barr is 25. These is from some Senate poll that they are doing among people there on the ground. So anyways, I wish him luck. I think he's probably the best man for the job. Also, another story that I haven't had an opportunity to talk about. You guys might remember a couple of years ago, there was an illegal biolab that was raided in California. There was a warehouse with a hose sticking out of the side, and an inspector happened to walk by, and they went inside and they inspected the building only to determine that there was an illegal biological laboratory that was operating inside. They had all kinds of nasty viruses like Zika virus, COVID, which is not that big of a deal, but also HIV, tuberculosis, a whole bunch of other things that you didn't want to get out. Well, that lab ended up being connected to a citizen of the People's Republic of China. He was a member of the Chinese Communist Party. And the circumstances under which all of these things were being worked on was, well outside of the boundaries of how you were supposed to operate a facility like this. It was a disaster for a pandemic of multiple types to happen. This new lab that was discovered in Las Vegas, and I believe there was actually 2 homes that were raided in Las Vegas. They were actually connected to the same guy. If you'll go back to that time, the Biden government refused to test anything. They didn't even want to raid the place. It was basically a job that was forced upon them by state authorities. And the guy who owns the lab ended up going to prison. And apparently he owned this house and another house in Las Vegas. And wouldn't you know it, they were also doing the exact same things in this house. Now, the house itself was actually being rented out on Airbnb by an Israeli citizen who was acting as the manager of the home. And there were a couple of deep freezes in the garage, which housed all of these pathogens. So this time, obviously, the FBI and the federal government are taking it a lot more seriously. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department are the ones who actually executed the raid on this residential property. And there was enough stuff going on in this house. It could have killed thousands upon thousands of people, maybe even more, depending on how bad it could have gone. There were fridges which had unknown liquids. There were vials of biological material, and it required, of course, the response of a hazmat team. And there was one individual who was taken into custody at the time of the raid. That was the man I mentioned, the property manager. His name was Ori Solomon. He is not a citizen of the United States. He's a citizen of Israel. He was here on a visa. I don't believe it was an H-1B. It was a different type of visa. What also is kind of unsettling about it is that he, here on a visa, not a citizen of the United States, does not have the right to own firearms, but he did have firearms and they were in his possession at the home when he was raided. Now, the ownership is actually to a shell company, which is owned by the guy from California, J.B. Zhu. And he is a fugitive from Canada with ties to the Chinese government. He is currently in federal custody. There were more than 1,000 samples that were collected from this particular scene. And apparently the way that this one got blown up was because people who were renting the home as an Airbnb got deathly ill. And they must have seen some other things there, or perhaps they were tested when they went to the hospital, and maybe they were like, how did you come into contact with malaria or E. coli or anything like that? And they ended up calling it in, and that's how the government found out about it, and here we are today. So the only question I have is how many other houses exactly like this are operating in a clandestine fashion all across the United States of America? This company that owned it, the LLC, was called Prestige Biotech, and that always makes me think about Step Brothers, Prestige Worldwide. So the Prestige Biotech would not confirm if the biologics that were in this lab were actually theirs. And I don't think that they are confirming anything additional about this house. The only thing that I saw that was publicly stated by anybody having to do with this was the Israeli. After he was arrested, he called his daughter from the recorded line in the jail, and he was like, did you get the guns? Did they take the guns? Make sure you get the guns before the feds get the guns. Well, the original search warrant said nothing about guns, and apparently they saw a couple of Glocks laying around when they walked in, but they couldn't take them because it wasn't part of the search warrant. As soon as he admitted to his daughter on a recorded line that they belonged to him, they immediately went back with an additional search warrant, and they cleaned the rest of the house out. But suffice to say, you need to be careful when you're staying at Airbnbs. If you show up someplace and they have a bunch of tunnels with lab rats with tumors on them running around the place, or you open up a deep freeze in the garage and there's bottles of blood and samples of human feces, you probably want to ask for your money back. But totally messed up. All right, we also now have an update on the sentencing of Ryan Routh, the man who attempted to shoot President Trump during the 2024 presidential election at the Trump Doral. If you'll remember, much of what was learned during the course of this trial never came out because Judge Eileen Cannon sealed the whole thing because she said it would be too damaging to national security. As we do know a couple of things about Ryan Routh, like his connections to military, the CIA, USAID, traveling to Ukraine, Turkey, a number of other countries, kind of operating as a recruiter for soldiers of fortune, hoping to go and fight the Russians in Ukraine. This man obviously had military and intelligence ties. I don't think that anybody out there believes that Ryan Routh just woke up one day and said, you know what, I'm going to go attempt to assassinate the president, especially considering the fact that President Trump was not scheduled to be at the golf course that day. Somehow Ryan Routh got the news that President Trump was going to show up. If it wasn't for the fact that a Secret Service agent saw the end of his rifle poking through the fence, then he may have been successful where the Butler assassination was not successful. So Ryan Routh has been sentenced to life in prison, and I tend to believe that we are never going to hear from Ryan Routh ever again. Now, we still don't know a lot about the Butler shooting as well. Kash Patel recently went on with Bret Baier and said that we have given the American public and Congress everything that we can legally give them, which means to me that there is either investigations which are still going on, or perhaps there is additional national security implications for the Butler shooting as well. And so that's why we haven't learned anything about it, despite the fact that we had a dead body, we had a house, we had all of these calls, we had all of this geofenced information, we had Thomas Hayden Crooks going to Washington, D.C. Lots of information that I think could have led down a number of other paths. But one of the theories that was out at the time was that the real snipers were actually Ukrainian. which would make a lot of sense because if President Trump was elected, as he was in 2024, then I think Volodymyr Zelensky knew that he was probably not going to be able to continue fighting the war against Russia with a blank checkbook. There were also Ukrainians from the Azov battalion that were present in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. So considering the knowledge that we have of their connections to the Central Intelligence Agency and just how dirty the CIA is in general and the deep state having infiltrated so many different levels of the American bureaucracy, I tend to believe it's pretty likely that there were additional snipers who were there. And if it were to come out that they were connected to Ukraine or that Volodymyr Zelensky had some part along with the CIA in trying to kill President Trump on multiple occasions, well, that's probably not the kind of thing that they want to come out with until the time is right. If you'll remember, the interaction that President Trump had with Zelensky in the Oval Office, that very contentious interaction that he had when President Trump told him, you're not holding any of the cards. You basically need to do what I'm telling you need to do. And eventually, Zelensky has kind of come around to the point where he realizes that nothing is going to go the way that he wants it to. NATO is essentially neutered. They're falling apart. Those people don't have the troops or the money or the weapons to continue keeping Ukraine propped up. Right now, the entire country is plunged into darkness because all the people in Zelensky's government were stealing money from the energy sector. Of course, Russia has also done a pretty good job of taking out their energy grid. And we also have this taking place at the United Nations. Apparently, they are warning of imminent financial collapse because, again, just like NATO, the United States is no longer propping them up. Also, with the creation of the Board of Peace, I don't think many international leaders are looking to the United Nations as something that they want to invest a lot of money in because they simply do nothing at all. They take money, they infringe upon the sovereignty of all of these nations that just want to go do their own thing, and then they basically prop themselves up through the money that is given to them by places like the United States of America. Primarily, if it wasn't for the land and the building that we gave them, they wouldn't even have a place to do business. Like I said, when President Trump created the Board of Peace, I could easily see the United Nations essentially going extinct and President Trump's Board of Peace being the new international body, which is not made of a organization hoping to create a new system of global governance, but a collection of sovereign nations coming together with similar interests and hoping to create a lasting peace. I think that we are now looking at that more as a reality than we have at any time in the past. So imminent financial collapse is what the Secretary General says, because it's not just the United States that is not paying for everybody to continue being a member of the United Nations. It sounds like a whole bunch of other nations don't want to pay their dues anymore as well. The revelations of this financial catastrophe was laid out in an emergency letter from the current Secretary General. His name is Antonio Guterres, and it was sent to all 193 member nations. Guterres said that the organization's financial crisis is worsening daily, threatening the delivery of core programs. Core programs like human trafficking operations, organized rape operations in countries where there are human rights catastrophes. And there is also the potentially the potential bankruptcy of the United Nations, which could come as early as July of this year. So he's essentially asking these member states, all 193, to either pay what they owe in full or agree to sweeping changes to the UN's financial rules so that they can avoid collapse. Likely, that would mean that they would have to shut down many different programs around the world. Maybe they would have to have reduced hours. Maybe they would only meet once or twice a year. Who knows? But he says either all member states honor their obligations to pay in full and on time, or member states must fundamentally overhaul our financial rules to prevent an imminent financial collapse. Now, the United States, we, again, are the largest contributor. We are not paying the fund that we were paying before. The organization's regular and peacekeeping budgets were previously propped up by us, and we have essentially withdrawn from multiple UN nations. You might remember a couple of weeks ago, President Trump and Marco Rubio had announced that we had pulled out of the hundreds of global organizations. Many of them were affiliated with the United Nations, and for every single one of those organizations, the United States was writing a check every single year. We, as a country, President Trump's administration have routinely criticized the UN. They waste money, they appease criminal regimes, they infringe on sovereignty of us and on other member nations, and several other member states are now also having the exact same come to Jesus moment that we had when we reelected President Trump. Gutierrez said only 77% of mandatory payments were even received in 2025. So they were essentially 23% under their budget because people were not paying. They have declined to pay. They are asking for a reassessment of their contributions. This financial strain has compounded situation because international rules require them to refund unspent funds. That's even when the money was never collected in the first place. So if they have money that they couldn't spend because people didn't pay it, are they then required to still pay back money even to nations who never gave them money in the first place? That's kind of funny. That seems like a very, very easy way that we could bankrupt the United Nations all at once. So as a result, they are forced to return hundreds of millions of dollars that they don't have. And that includes $227 million that was refunded this month alone. Wow, this is great, man. Anyways, it appears to me that the United Nations is dead. The UN is dead. Long live the Board of Peace. There we go. All right, now, take a look at this. We have an update on those radical left terrorists from Minneapolis who broke into all of those federal agents' vehicles. It appears that one of these men, along with one of his children, was just arrested by the FBI for both doxing and threatening a federal agent. I'm sorry, this man threatened the child of the federal agent. I said it backwards, but let's go ahead and take a look at this and see if we can find anything out.
A man has been arrested and charged with doxing and threatening an FBI agent and his child using information that was stolen from a government vehicle during an anti-ICE protest in Minneapolis. Garrett Tenney, what happened?
Yeah, well, Dana, folks at home will remember these images of protesters breaking into several FBI vehicles a couple of weeks ago in Minneapolis after agents who were trying to investigate the shooting of an illegal immigrant were forced to evacuate the area for their own safety. Inside those cars, protesters found documents that they posted online, including rosters with FBI employees' phone numbers, email addresses, home addresses, and driver's license. According to court records, within a day, 10 to 15 FBI agents and employees started getting threatening phone calls, emails, texts, and even suspicious drive-bys at their home addresses. One agent had around 23 different people contact him with messages like this: "I know where your mom lives, bro, and your dad, and your kids, buddy. Get home safe and fast." And then this email: "We'll see how tough you are when I firebomb," and then included a specific address tied to the agent in Cincinnati, Ohio. But it didn't stop.
Queen Bee just sat down for dinner. Sausage, gravy, and biscuits. That sounds delicious. I'm down for some of that.
There. They also tracked down one FBI special agent's child on Facebook and sent them this message: "How does it feel to be the child of your dad's info leaked online?" And I find it incredibly embarrassing that he's FBI, but so much is available about him and his family. Investigators traced several of those threatening messages to a man who lives outside Chicago in Schaumburg, Illinois, and according to the criminal complaint, has a criminal history that includes domestic battery, burglary, and mob action. He's now charged with doxing and threatening an FBI agent.
Gotta love it. I hope they catch all of them. Every single one. Those people need to go to prison. Love it. Absolutely love it. Hopefully, he'll probably try to make a deal so that he doesn't have to spend the next 20 years in prison. Sean Joe, thank you for the can. Filter Dog says Elish backfire. Elish backfire. What? I don't know what that means. Elish backfire. I can't decode that one, PJ. We're going to have to pull up the link. Thank you to Judy the Lady Pug for the cookie. Thank you to Good Dog for the can, and thank you 123SKG for the cookie as well. All right, we'll go ahead and indulge my good friend Filter Dog. Hellish backfire. And Eilish. Okay. All right. So I didn't talk about this, but this is hilarious. So I guess the Grammys were held over the weekend. I don't care about the Grammys. I've never watched them. I mean, you know, pop music is not my thing. So Billie Eilish, this girl on screen right here, she accepted an award. And I guess there was a lot of messaging about ICE. People were like, end ICE, ICE go home. We don't want ICE. Nobody is illegal on stolen land. And that's exactly what Billie Eilish said. She said, it's hard to celebrate when all of this is going on. No one is illegal on stolen land. And then I don't know if she actually mentioned this Indian tribe that was like living in the California area, I guess the LA basin at some point in the past. But she lives in a palatial estate, this giant mansion, which is on the Indian tribe's ancestral property. Now, the Tongva tribe is what they are called. And they responded to Billie Eilish mentioning the stolen land. And they said, as the first people of the greater Los Angeles basin, we do understand that her home is situated on our ancestral land. Eilish has not contacted our tribe directly regarding her property. Obviously, the insinuation is, well, Billie Eilish, if you feel that bad about living on stolen land, you should just give us your house. You should move out and give us your house and repatriate that stolen land. But of course, that's not what this girl wants to do. She doesn't really care about stolen land. She just cares about virtue signaling. What's even funnier about it is that a real estate lawyer, the Sinai law firm, they are actually the #1 eviction company in America. They are now offering their services pro bono to this tribe to evict Billie Eilish from her $14 million home. And they say that her statement on stage is an admission that she is living on stolen tribal land and has no rights to the property. So I don't know if this is something that could stand up in court, but I mean, it looks to me like they're probably going to go for it. This is so funny. This is actually what she said. She's a total moron.
No one is illegal on stolen land.
So brave, stunning and brave.
No one is illegal on stolen land.
Anyways, it's a gated house. I want to say it's like a 14,000 square foot, maybe not that big. I don't know. $14 million anyways, but it's a big property. So let's see how far the Sinai law firm takes it. Sinai law firm is offering to evict Billie Eilish from her Los Angeles home on a pro bono basis on behalf of the Tongva tribe. Sinai law firm is the premier eviction company in America. Muffin, I need you to stop. Ain't going to happen. We are in the midst of this show. Now, we are talking about ICE right now, so let me cue this up. And actually, give me just 1 second, guys. I'm going to play this, and I'm going to have to go get Muffin a treat because she knows that I am vulnerable because Lisa's not here. Real quick, before I do that, quick message from our friends over here on Rumble. Guys, if you still have not yet tried 1775 coffee, this is your opportunity. Their starter kits are still available. In those starter kits, you're going to get their bold dark roast, their smooth medium roast, and their Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus without the crash. It's all single origin, small batch, toxin, and mold free. Plus, you're going to get their gold spoon clip, their very strong frother, and a black 1775 tumbler. It's worth $170, but you're going to get it for only $99. If you've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble and wonder if it's actually worth it, it truly is. And to find out, you just need to go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab one of those starter kits before they are gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. All right, so I'm just going to get them a treat real quick, you guys. I'll be right back, so I'm going to play an old classic. You're going to love it. And we're back. Thank you very much for your patience. Appreciate it. Whoa, what happened? I just lost a window. Let me get that figured out. Okay. Okay, so here we go. I want to play this little clip for you. It would appear that ICE agents are using EMP disabling devices on vehicles in Minnesota. Or actually, maybe this isn't Minnesota, but I know that it is winter. So maybe it's Minnesota. Maybe, yeah, this has got to be Minnesota because he says it in the chat or in the video. Wounds R Us says these celebs are paid big bucks to talk crap. Yes, they are. Denise Ann also says, no deals. These people need to suffer the consequences of their actions. I am 100% with you. All right, but take a look at this. This guy drove as an ICE Watch member his Prius, and ICE disabled his Prius with this EMP disabling device. I've never heard of this happening before, but this is awesome. Freedom, yes, it is good coffee.
It's been confirmed that ICE used an EMP on my Toyota Prius battery. If you know anything about Toyota Priuses, the battery is made up of 21 cells. When just one of them is down too low, the battery's done. That's a $3,000 battery and a $6,000 to $5,000 replacement. Not just one of my batteries was gone, but over half out of absolutely nowhere. Nothing was ever wrong with this Toyota Prius. This is difficult, but I'm reaching out to community because I understand the power of our mutual aid networks here in Minneapolis. After ICE has literally destroyed this vehicle while I was on ICE Watch, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, all lavish Mac, just to help me to continue to be able to do this work. It would be such a blessing. It would be an honor. Gratitude, love, fuck ICE.
Bro, nobody's going to give you $8,000 to get those batteries replaced on a 15-year-old Prius. Now, here's the thing. I know this is possible, but I've never heard of it being done before. I love it that it was done, but either way, it could just be that he's just claiming that this happened. I mean, the Prius is old enough, and it's cold enough. Perhaps the battery got too low and he just didn't realize it. But either way, don't give this clown your money. He does not deserve your money. All right, now, it would appear also at the DOJ, things are a little hectic right now. This was a stunning and unexpected interaction that took place yesterday. A lawyer for the Justice Department had some type of a mental breakdown in the midst of all of these immigration cases, and she actually asked the judge to arrest her and hold her in contempt so that she could get some sleep. This was before U.S. District Judge Jerry Blackwell. Jerry is a Biden appointee, and he was holding a hearing and demanding to know why several of his immigration orders were being ignored by the Trump administration. Now, they're apparently not being ignored by the Trump administration. There are just so many freaking immigration cases that we're dealing with right now, and virtually every single one of them is having filings that are being brought to court. They're being represented by these left-wing nonprofits all around America. And the attorney representing the DOJ was a young woman by the name of Julie Lee. And I guess she was begging Judge Blackwell to hold her in contempt. She said, I wish you would just hold me in contempt of court so I can get 24 hours sleep. The system sucks. This job sucks. I am trying with every breath I have to get you what you need. So Judge Blackwell ordered this show cause hearing because he was frustrated. I guess there's 5 habeas cases that he's been presiding over, and he said because he hadn't heard anything back, he was being ignored. But that's leaving these detainees unconstitutionally locked up for days longer than they should. That is his assertion. But Miss Lee said that government lawyers cannot keep up. We need more DOJ attorneys working these immigration cases. So this is in Minnesota. You can see why it's kind of a problem. There is apparently just a backlog. It's not that ICE and Customs is not complying with the orders, but Operation Metro Surge has just led to the government being overwhelmed. And Julie Lee is apparently on the wrong end of this problem. So she is working on behalf of the U.S. Attorney's Office, and she says the government is just overwhelmed. We've got so many legal challenges out of Metro Surge. And she went into court to explain why it is that the judge is seeing this stuff. She says, I am here to make what they're saying. I am here to make sure the agency understands how important it is to comply with court orders, said Miss Lee, who became visibly emotional during the court hearing. And she said procedures are being implemented to ensure that ICE complies with court orders moving forward. And she admitted it's been like pulling teeth and it's requiring nonstop work at an already depleted office. Because don't forget, when Operation Metro Surge happened, there were a whole bunch of DOJ attorneys who quit and they just left. They said, we don't want to do this anymore. I say good riddance to bad rubbish. This woman wanted to stick around, so I think obviously her heart's in the right place. But somebody talk to Pam Bondi or whoever it is that could set up some additional attorneys there in Minneapolis. We need this stuff to be taken care of. I mean, not only do we need to get these people out of the country as quickly as possible, but we also need to make sure that these people are not being put through an unnecessary amount of work. Makes sense to me, too, says Siesta Randy told me to. Well, Randy, I say thank you to you, and makes sense to me, too. Thank you to you as well. Appreciate you guys. All right, now, I also wanted to show you this, again, coming out of Minneapolis. You remember the woke farmer. Well, apparently the woke farmer is being eaten by the woke. That's right. The woke libtards of Reddit and Blue Sky are now attacking Mr. Kelly because they say that he's an interloper. He's not in Minneapolis to stand up for the disenfranchised or for the stateless people, the people without papers. He's actually there for his own social media clout. And so therefore, he is sucking up valuable resources that should be going to trans women who are illegal, black trans women who are illegal, apparently. Take a listen to this. This guy is one of those people who stormed the church, who has now been charged under the FACE Act and the Enforcement Act. He's looking at decades in prison. And of course, he's also looking at several $100,000 in legal fees. Language alert, before I play this guy is loud and obnoxious, but I love seeing him suffer. I am not a petty man, but I am in this instance.
I'm over here moving to a more permanent residence, but my wife just showed me a Reddit post talking shit about me, saying I came to Minnesota for fucking clout, for profit, and that I'm taking away from the local fucking organizations. Are you fucking kidding me? Do you not realize how many fucking local organizations we support every single fucking day? Do you not realize how much I fucking sacrifice? I have been protesting every single fucking day since October. I've been beat down, arrested, shot right in the face with a fucking OC cannon fucking spray. I've had a knee on my fucking neck. I'm facing 10 years in fucking federal prison for supporting a local organization's protest. And you're telling me I'm taking away from what Minnesota's doing? Every single dime I spend is going back into the community. I fucking share fundraisers for local organizations every single fucking day, but I'm taking away from the fucking community? I'm a Minnesotan now, motherfuckers. I love this place. I love this how you resist. I love your community. That's why I stayed here, to show what's happening here, to show the rest of the world, to use my influence, to show people how you know how to resist already, how you're building the framework for the fucking revolution. So anybody that's hating on me for raising over $100,000 while I was in fucking jail because I need a fucking defender, I need a lawyer, you know how fucking expensive a federal fucking attorney is? So fuck you. Fuck you for saying that. I love the people. I do this every single day for the people because I was a history major. I know what fucking happens next and I'm fucking scared. So if you want to say I'm doing it for fucking influence and fucking profit, for one, I ain't profiting shit, and for two, fuck you.
Oh, he's losing his shit. I love it. I absolutely love it. Mr. Kelly is, of course, learning a valuable lesson. As a white man, doesn't matter what you do, you will always be a white man. You will always be a conquistador, not a conquistador, those are the Spanish, a conqueror. You will always be a colonizer. You will always be part of the problem. You know what you should do, William Kelly? You should take that $150,000 that you raised and you should donate it equally among the various disenfranchised members of the Minneapolis community. And then you should just accept a public defender who is not going to do a very good job for you because the state, the federal government, has a very well put together case between you and Don Lemon's live streams, between all of the communications, between you and your co-conspirators, between the various overt acts that you engaged in to disenfranchise the parishioners on that day, to strip them of their First Amendment right to speak freely and to worship in whatever way they wanted. You have screwed yourself, and you have aligned yourself with people who have absolutely no loyalty or integrity. They don't care about you. You are disposable. The best thing that could happen for the movement is for you to go to prison for the next 10 to 15 years, because then they can put your face on a t-shirt. Then they can do GoFundMes for you. Then they can rally around your name. Political prisoner William Kelly, the woke farmer. He's a white man, but yes, he gave his life in service to the disenfranchised black trans indigenous community. Mr. Kelly, I'm going to thoroughly enjoy watching your prosecution. This is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All right. Now, we also had a situation where Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles, where we had that trouble taking place last week. And by the way, some company took my entire video down on YouTube for the day that I played a 9-second clip of those ICE agents mooning the protesters, and then a 12-second clip of protesters being arrested. And I didn't even play either clip in their entirety all the way through. I spoke over it. I had other things going on the screen. It was totally transformative, and I'm trying to fight it so I can get that video back up right now, because otherwise you get a copyright strike. But anyways, here at the same location at the Metropolitan Detention Center, we've got what appears to be an attack on a local news affiliate for Fox, KTTV. They were outside this facility, and they appeared to be attacked. Let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to turn the audio down. Maybe that's going to help make sure they don't try to take this down again. Oh, this is some dude from Kick. That's probably not.
Oh my God, he just cut his cord. Oh my God, he just cut.
Oh my God, he just cut the cameraman's cable, so he's probably no longer broadcasting.
Oh, what channel is that? Fuck. He's going to try again. He's going to try again. He's going to try again. He's trying again. Why is Fox? He's trying again. He's trying again. Oh, he almost got it. They're gonna do it. Oh my God. Damn, that's a tough ass cable.
Fox is complicit with ICE.
Fox goes back and forth across the line, but no
Fuck the fascists. Fox News. Get the fuck out of here.
Why is he going across the line? We are all forbidden for doing this. We are all forbidden, so they are allowed to go back and forth.
He's like, yeah, this is not safe. We're going to need to get out of here.
Trump is a pedophile. I never want to hear the
Oh, he just hit him. He just hit him. These guys smell blood in the water.
They got it. They cut it.
They got it. They cut it.
They cut it. They cut it. They cut the cord.
Donald Trump is a pedophile. Donald Trump is a pedophile. Donald Trump is a pedophile.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, they don't take kindly to people out there in L.A. So this, of course, led to additional unrest taking place there. Hey, what's up, baby? I love you. Untamed Nation, thank you so much for the raid over there on Rumble. Appreciate you. We also just had a press conference from Tom Homan earlier today in Minnesota. He said that things have really changed since he's come in. Remember, President Trump went hard on the front end with Greg Bovino and Metro Surge, and he got it to the point where local leaders were begging for President Trump to just leave or be nice to them. And he said, you know what? I'm going to send you a kinder, gentler immigration czar. It's going to be Tom Homan. And Tom Homan comes in, and guess what happens? Everybody starts playing ball. He says that every county in Minnesota is now letting ICE into the jails so that they can arrest these illegal aliens. This is a full bending of the knee by the state of Minnesota and local government. They have capitulated. Let's get an update from Tom Homan.
Attorney General Mayor Fry and law enforcement officials about increasing coordination in a lawful way between the county jails and ICE to avoid public safety threats being released back in the community. While we had our differences, one thing was clear: we all committed to public safety for all who live in the Twin Cities. We have made significant progress under the direction of President Trump, working with state and local officials here in Minnesota, and I expect that to increase in the coming weeks. We continue to have discussions. I'll have discussions this afternoon. We currently have an unprecedented number of counties communicating with us now and allowing ICE to take custody of illegal aliens before they hit the streets. Unprecedented cooperation. And I'll say it again. This is efficient, requires only 1 or 2 officers to assume custody of a criminal alien target rather than 8 or 10 officers going into the community and arresting that public safety threat.
You gotta love it.
This frees up more officers to arrest or remove criminal aliens. More officers taking custody of criminal aliens directly from the jails means less officers on the street doing criminal operations. This is smart law enforcement, not less law enforcement. It's safer for the community, safer for the officers, and safer for the alien.
The commies are upset because, once again, President Trump's agenda is working. These people were too stupid to recognize the art of the deal when he came in the way that he did with Bavino and Metro Surge. They practically begged for Tom Homan to come in. They begged for Greg Bavino to go someplace else. And you know what? It's perfectly fine. Greg Bavino is going to kick ass no matter where he goes. He's just not there in Minneapolis any longer. He doesn't need to be, because we have forced them into a position of submission. So cry more. You might gonna want to put a little bit of lotion on your hoo-ha, because I'm sure it's a little sore after the effing you got while we were there previously. Now, just so anybody is aware, it looks like not only are we not allowing Somalians to come to the United States temporarily, hopefully, it's going to be a ban for the next couple of decades. Representative Brandon Gill has just filed a bill to ban Somali immigration for the next 25 years. We've got plenty of them, and most of them need to go back. So Brandon Gill shared this on X just a little bit earlier today. He said mass Somali immigration makes life worse for Americans, and that's why I filed a bill today to stop it. Now, he also said we have a huge problem in Texas, particularly in the Dallas area, with mass Islamic immigration. He cited all the same problems they have up there in Minnesota: welfare fraud, high crime rates, Somali immigrants doing unapproved school visits to promote Sharia law, sprawling mosque developments where they are openly breaking the law by refusing to allow people who are not of their crew to move on in, people from their own clans. He said this is a simple recognition that mass immigration from Somalia doesn't make the United States better off. Somali immigrants use welfare at rates that are significantly higher than Americans. They have crime rates that are significantly higher than Americans. That doesn't do anything to make life better for us. Most Americans and most Texans don't want to be woken up at 6 a.m. hearing a Muslim call to prayer. I certainly don't. I'm right there with you, Brandon. They don't want Sharia law in their communities. Hell no. It is totally against what America stands for. It is antithetical to the Bill of Rights, to the Constitution, to the laws that we have on the books here. We don't want Sharia in our communities. We don't want it in our state. We don't want it in our country. We don't want it here in any way whatsoever. Now, this legislation would not impact those who are already here legally. That includes people with green cards and diplomatic visa recipients, but it slams the door on any future migration. So across America, 81% of Somali immigrants and their households are on welfare. That's according to a 2025 report from the Center for Immigration Studies. In Minnesota, where we have the highest Somali population, 73% of those immigrants are on Medicaid. 54% of those immigrants are on food stamps. We've seen the fraud in Minnesota. We've been talking about it for weeks. Gil said it's predominantly committed in Somali communities by Somali immigrants coming into the United States not to live the American dream, not getting themselves to become self-sufficient and integrate with society or become productive members of society, but coming here because they realize they can get free stuff. Well, we're shutting that shit down right now. No more in the future. Now, we have another sad, sorry case of effing around and finding out.
See, as you can see, the more you around, the more you're going to find out.
So here we have a Chicago nurse who has been fired after he published a viral video essentially calling on fellow nurses to not treat ICE agents, to target them and to essentially kill them, to allow them to bleed out, he said. This is so funny to me. We keep having incidences of nurses going out on public social media platforms and broadcasting exactly the type of sick pieces of shit that they are. And I want to say, keep doing it. Keep telling on yourselves because you're going to keep getting fired. I don't want to end up at the hospital and see somebody walking in with a rainbow flag pin and then asking me who I vote for. It's none of your business. But they might assume that I'm a Trump supporter, and they therefore might decide that my standard of care should not be the same as the trans refugee that's in the next room across the hall from me. Let's take a look at what this man's post said. And, before I do that, I need to just throw that up on screen real quick. All right, so this guy worked at Midwest Express Clinic and Carle Hospital in the Chicago area. He also says not only should they target ICE, but they should also fire all employees who support President Trump.
Remember how much power nurses have in this country? One of our own was just murdered in the street. So, we might be able to stop this somehow. Thoughts?
Good morning. Did you know most ICE agents don't wear their plates properly? I've seen.
Anyways, so he posted that, and very shortly after he was exposed, the Midwest Express Clinic confirmed that Chad was no longer an employee with the company following that original expose. And then he posted another video essentially crying about the fact that he was misrepresented, his words were taken out of context, and he would never suggest that someone who he doesn't agree with politically should receive a lower standard of care than somebody who would vote the same way that he does. But you heard his words. I mean, he was talking about using his power as a nurse within the medical system to ensure that people he disagrees with are unable to continue disagreeing with him. So, yeah, I don't want this guy anywhere near a medical center, and it looks like nobody in Chicago and nobody in Illinois, anyways, want him there either. Hopefully, he's going to lose his nursing license, just like all of those crusty old broads down here in Florida that did as well. Now, this one is very disturbing. This girl is on TikTok. Her name is Tavi Quinn. She's a liberal mother who lives in Portland, Oregon. And she's got so much shit in her face. I don't know why anybody would ever want to do this. But she said that she is considering, or she has considered, taking herself and her children out to, quote, protect them from ICE.
I really pray it doesn't get bad enough. But being a mom in America, I had to stop walking for this. I often think that if it gets to the point of knocking on doors, God, and like, to even have these thoughts, it's like I'm literally separating from reality right now. If it comes down to me taking out myself and my kids versus us being taken by ICE, like, God help me, I did not want to do it. This is not the life I wanted. But that is a very dark thought that I've had. Death would be a easier out than for my children to be taken and harmed by these pedophiles.
So what's even scarier about this is that she also recently posted a TikTok about purchasing a firearm because she thinks she needs it to protect herself from ICE. From the perusal of this woman's account, everything that I've seen tells me that she and her children are actually American citizens. So the fact that she thinks that this is even a reasonable or plausible path to take tells me that this woman is seriously mentally ill. Now, Right Angle News at Network also says that CPS has been notified. Haven't seen... That's actually the first thing that I saw when I thought when I saw that shit in her face. So I haven't seen any updates on this right here. This is where she says she's going out to buy a gun. And obviously this was a while ago because you can see she's got like 2 or 3 times as many piercings in her face as she does right there. Now, absolutely insane. Brian Murphy says, fundraising challenge so we can pay off Muffin with a bunch of treats so she stops shaking down and extorting Zach. Thank you very much for that, Brian. I appreciate you. We did not organize that before the show. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you very much. But yeah, I can't imagine anybody's thinking that, oh gosh, you know, ICE is enforcing immigration law as they are tasked with doing. I should probably consider whether or not I should commit matricide. No, that's absolutely insane. All right. Now, James O'Keefe and O'Keefe Media Group yesterday released a brand new undercover video of an official at the FBI. They're asserting that the Minnesota fraud investigations are going to result in 0 arrests. Now, of course, that is not what anybody wants to hear. And apparently it's also not what the FBI wanted to hear coming out of this guy's mouth as well, because shortly after this report was released by James O'Keefe, this man was fired from the FBI office that he works at. He said, I don't think anybody, meaning daycare fraud criminals, would ever go to prison. And he said, by the time that case is done, even being looked at, ready to go to court, Trump won't even be in office anymore. This is about a 13-minute expose. So we're not going to watch the whole thing, but we will watch the introduction here. And I would obviously encourage people to go and watch it yourself. Once again, a moron getting honeypotted. Stop looking for sluts online.
He's like a diva. Is that true? 110% he's a diva. Are you serious? 110%. He's lazy as hell.
So he's calling Kash Patel a diva, calling him lazy as hell. I'd say that it's probably pretty simple to divine what this guy's politics is. I think that his statement has more to do with the fact that he's of the opinion that the administration is simply disorganized, mismanaged. Kash Patel isn't doing a good job. Nothing is going to happen at the FBI. He's also probably operating under that assumption because he's been an employee at the FBI for quite some time, and he's not used to actually going after real criminals.
I've said that if arrests do not happen, if people are not held to account.
Hazel Cuddy, you're talking about Naomi Siped, probably. She's pretty cool.
Then we'll have no choice but to investigate the investigators themselves.
I am a security specialist at the FBI, so I do background checks, investigations, that type of stuff. I've been working there.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, your OPSEC is shit, bruh. Justin Devine, your OPSEC should have led you to look into the person that you were going on a date with to drink alcohol, to be compromised, and to get yourself fired.
5 years now.
On hidden camera, this FBI security specialist tells us the quiet part out loud.
So you don't think there's going to be any, like, major arrests, like with Kash Patel or the FBI?
No. Also, I don't think anybody would ever go to prison.
Now, thanks to the brave work of citizen journalists like Nick Shirley, Americans were able to see what actually happens in Minnesota outside these daycare centers.
Do you think they're going to arrest the people, like, that are dealing with the daycare stuff?
I think by the time that case is done, even being, like, looked at, being ready to go to court, Trump won't even be in office anymore. Like, it would most likely be thrown out very quickly.
Why would it be thrown out? Why would it be thrown out? Dozens and dozens of people have already been held, indicted, brought to trial, convicted in the Feeding Our Future scandal. And that is relatively a much smaller amount of money that was stolen from the federal government. And we're talking about many, 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 many more billions of dollars. Feeding Our Future was only $250 million, and that prosecution began under the Biden administration. So I see no reason to believe that we are actually going to see prosecutions, arrests, and people going to prison for the many other scams that Somalis are engaged in Minneapolis. And it's not just Minneapolis. As we know, it's also Washington, California, Ohio, Maine. This is not over. This is just beginning as far as I'm concerned. So I'm glad to see this guy is not working there any longer. Now, we also have another scammer, this time another healthcare scammer. This guy stole over $300 million and he fled to Serbia. He was working in Chicago. His name was Anash Ahmed. He was the former chief financial officer of Loretto Hospital. He was arrested in Belgrade back in November, and he's now in the process of being extradited to the United States. He fled the United States after they first filed the fraud charges against him, and now Serbian officials have caught him, and they are in the midst of this formal extradition request. Let's go ahead and look at local CBS affiliate reporting.
Right now, police say no one is in custody. And the former Loretto Hospital executive who's accused of defrauding the federal government of nearly $300 million has been arrested in Serbia. Anash Ahmed, who was CFO, is part of a group accused of using stolen
Skank Hunt says, love the show, Zach. Thank you so much, my friend. And don't get honeypotted, Skank Hunt, when you're out there hunting skanks.
patient data to bill $900 million worth of bogus COVID-19 tests. Ahmad fled the country following his indictment, though. Court documents just filed yesterday revealed that he was captured back in November. He remains in Serbia, but prosecutors want him extradited here to face charges.
Yes, we all want him extradited here to face charges. So, essentially, what he and his co-conspirators did is they orchestrated a widespread scheme where they submitted nearly $900 million in false claims to the United States Health Resources and Services Administration for reimbursement on COVID-19 testing of uninsured individuals, which they never actually did. This scheme took place between June of 2021 into March of 2022, and it was submitted to the Office of the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, Andrew Boutros. As part of the scheme, Ahmed and others would access personal data of more than 150,000 patients who had been to the hospital at one time in the past, and then they would use their name and information to submit these fake COVID-19 tests that were never administered to anybody. Now, he also came under some level of controversy in the early days of the pandemic when vaccinations first began to roll out on a limited basis. In 2021, he and other executives at Loretto held vaccination events at high school locations, at high-end locations, including watch dealers and Trump Tower in Chicago. And the hospital is supposed to be for lower-income individuals. So they were going places that would have a more affluent customer, you might say. So glad to see him getting arrested. Now, let's talk about Savannah Guthrie. So it's just being reported that law enforcement has seized the vehicle of Savannah Guthrie's sister. Her name is Anna Guthrie. Now, she claims that her source tells her that Annie's husband, Tomasco Sioni, is rumored to be the #1 suspect in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Savannah Guthrie. She went missing over the weekend, and it was reported, I believe, that it was the sister, Annie Guthrie, who actually called in the fact that she was missing. She went there to go pick her mother up. The mother wasn't there and apparently called around, and then they figured out that there was something going on. Now, all of the Ring cameras were ripped off of the home. There was a trail of blood that was outside the front door. The back door had been broken down. And the worst part is that the mother's medicine had been left there. Now, this is life-saving medicine that Nancy Guthrie takes on a daily basis in order to stay alive. Now, the FBI had previously visited Annie Guthrie and her husband at Tomasco Sioni's residence. That's about 10 minutes away from the mother's home. And Annie and Tomasco were reportedly the last people to see Nancy alive. They say say they dropped her off at her home between 9 and 9:45 p.m. on the 31st of January. It's also being reported that, as I said, those Nest cameras were deliberately smashed. There was forced entry at the back door. And there was also some kind of strange responses from local police when they were questioned about those Ring cameras. A reporter had gone to the scene, and you could see that it had been ripped off the wall. And so the sheriff had previously stated during a press conference that they felt this was targeted, that there was no threat to the public. Hopefully they find this mother and they're able to bring her back safely. But, you know, it's been about 5 days now, so I don't know if that's going to happen. But you can see here, this is Annie and her husband, Tomasco, right there. It could be something as simple as they wanted to get their inheritance sooner and they thought that they could fake a kidnapping for a kindly old woman. It could also be that Savannah Guthrie's husband was looking to divert attention from he, she, and their company showing up in the Epstein files. I don't know. That is not even something I'm alleging, but it is a possibility. And I would hope that in the very near future, we're going to find out what happened to this woman. I tend to think, you know, Occam's razor, it's probably about money. Yes. Lady Patriot 72, thank you so much for the $50 rant. She says, here are some treats for Muffin as well as for you and Lisa. God bless and keep up the great reporting. Thank you so much, my friend. I really appreciate it. Also want to give a big shout out to Sean Joe for the can and the cookie. Trump Red Pill just bought a 1-month bronze tier subscription over there on Pilled. Ina drops a cookie and says for Muffin. Sean Joe drops a cookie. Trump 1 also dropped another cookie for Muffin. And Moonbaby0437 says, give me more popcorn. Shit is getting good. Billy should put her money where her mouth is. Yeah, give your entire estate back to the Tongva tribe. Let them move in there. You don't deserve to be there. That's stolen property. Nobody is illegal except for you. You shouldn't be living there because it's stolen. Filter Dog 1 says, hush puppy. Sean Anon. Hey, what's up, Sean Anon? Good to see you, homie. He dropped 2 cookies. Also, DB63 me says, I call BS. Batteries don't last forever. Has he ever changed them out in the last 7 years? What a moron. So, obviously, those batteries that they're using on a Prius are different than the traditional batteries that you're going to have just to start your vehicle. But yes, they only have a limited lifespan. So depending on the age of the vehicle, they do go bad. He said it was confirmed, did not offer up any confirmation, but I just got to say, I personally like the idea that ICE is using EMP devices to disable the vehicles of ICE Watch protesters. Personally, that just gets my insides all warm and my jimmies rustling. Hogleg71, thank you very much for the cookie and the can. Sean Joe, thank you for 2 cookies. Filter Dog, thank you for the cookie. And Sean Joe, thank you for another cookie. I appreciate y'all. All right, now, bad news coming out of California. The Supreme Court is allowing California to use the new Democrat gerrymandered congressional map that is based on race. That is an explicitly illegal function, and it's likely going to eliminate 5 GOP seats. And even worse, it's going to take effect before the midterms. So that means that as of the midterms, California is likely to pick up 5 more seats. Now, a reasonable person might suggest that every single Republican run state in the entire country should probably redraw their maps and get this taken care of as soon as possible. As you can see on the left, this is the current map. On the right is the new map. They have gerrymandered the hell out of this map to make sure that you have basically Democrat-only districts. Right now, it's sitting at 43 Democrats with 9 Republicans. It's likely going to become 48 Democrats with 4 Republicans. Now, that is, of course, assuming that the fake and gay election system continues to be fake and gay by the time we get to the midterms. But if the SAVE Act is passed and there are sweeping changes to our election system based upon the work that Tulsi Gabbard and the good people at the FBI and the DOJ are doing, well, then that may mean that we don't have to worry about that anymore. And it could end up being all Republican seats because there are no illegals voting. There is no electronic voting machine. There is no opportunity for votes to be injected into the system. That's certainly my hope, but, you know, I'm a bit of a dreamer, and you guys all know that. All right, real quickly before we get into what's happened down in Georgia. My friends, they can cancel your accounts, they can freeze your cards, they can decide what you're allowed to say, buy, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have got total control over your money, and they know it. So introducing the Rumble Wallet. It's a wallet that's built for real freedom. With the Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. You can buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin all in one secure place. There is no permission, no middlemen, and no cancel button. And when you want to support creators you actually believe in, you can use that Rumble Wallet app to tip directly to content creators. Nobody gets a cut off the top. It is secure, instant, and without interference. This isn't a credit line they can shut off. It is your wallet, permanently yours to protect for your future, for your family. And when the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today, download the Rumble Wallet now, and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, and true financial freedom. Thank you so much. Also, thank you to Emerald Dragon 1333, who says this one's for Chi Chi. Hey, Zach and Lisa, thanks for all you do. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you also to AOB22, who says, Zach, we need a muffin video with the Eye of the Tiger music as she gets into shape. Okay, I can probably make that happen using AI. I will work on that this weekend. All right, so we need to take a look at what my good... the Gaydar's on. The Gaydar's on. This is an officially gay-free story. Sorry about that. Senator David Perdue testified in the Trump RICO special grand jury down in Georgia. And his testimony shows that the interference stopping investigators from looking into election fraud in 2020 obviously came directly from the top. Governor Brian Kemp, whose daughter's boyfriend was mysteriously blown up on the highway just days after we started looking into the 2020 election way back when, actually shut down a compelling investigation into ballot harvesting in 2020. So the then director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation was a man by the name of Vic Reynolds. He told Senator Perdue, I'm a team player. If the governor doesn't want to investigate, we are not going to investigate. You said that although Mr. Reynolds had received evidence that he felt was compelling enough to open an investigation, that he was not going to investigate because the governor had told him not to. And Senator Perdue responds, that's one of the things he said, yeah. Now, 1 month before the special grand jury testimony, Vic Reynolds was, wouldn't believe it, appointed as a Superior Court judge by none other than his good friend, Governor Brian Kemp. And Reynolds, well, he wasn't the only person who ignored election fraud evidence or the maladministration of the election and went on to get a big bump up. And that was a number of people who were appointed to Superior Court judgeships. He wasn't the first and he wasn't the second. Reynolds was presented with video evidence. He was given cell phone data. He was given bank records. He was given the testimony of a ballot harvester. Reynolds claimed that the GBI, that would be the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, made repeated requests to True the Vote for their witness. True the Vote denies this, saying they actually reached out to GBI after their one and only meeting, and they were completely ignored. You guys probably remember when True the Vote was attempting to bring forth evidence of election fraud in Georgia, and it simply never went anywhere. Well, it wasn't True the Vote's fault. It was the fault of the corrupt investigators in the state of Georgia. Catherine Engelbrecht, who is the founder of True the Vote, she said, after the meeting, we made repeated attempts to re-engage with the GBI, and we never received a response. So, of course, you got to ask, why did Brian Kemp order the GBI not to investigate an alleged crime, a crime that was fairly obvious, a crime that affected not only the citizens of Georgia, but the people of the United States of America, a crime that was also presented with ample evidence to suggest that, yes, in fact, it did happen. At a minimum, it was enough evidence to warrant a thorough investigation that ultimately led to an unprecedented RICO case against President Trump and the front-running person who was running against Joe Biden in 2024. It also led to many other people in Trump's orbit being forced to defend themselves in this RICO case and spend collectively hundreds of thousands of dollars. Of course, all of them are now entitled to a full refund by Fannie Willis and Fulton County, Georgia. Let me also say thank you very, very much to FOJC TV, fans of Jimmy Century. Love your work, brother. Good to see you, fans of Jimmy Century. Man, that is so awesome. Glad to see that you're over there on Rumble. Now that I got my channel back, I actually saw that I am still following you guys over there on YouTube. Lee Walden says, ahoy, Zach. I believe the SAVE Act, if signed into law, when is the law to begin? And I'm of the belief it's after the midterms. Well, there's a couple of different ways they can do it. They could have it not go into effect until after the midterms, or they could have it go into effect immediately. It all depends on how the law is written. And as far as I'm aware, the final law, as it's got to come out of the Senate, has not been prepared yet. So if they change what the House wrote, then it has to go back to the House for a final reconciliation. And as it stands right now, it hasn't been done. So I don't know. Thank you for that, Lee. Also, Brian Murphy says, let's have a remake of Stallone's Over the Top with Muffin on the paw wrestling circuit. Yes, we could totally do that. She would be a beast. What do they even call that? When you're standing up and you're arm wrestling? I don't even know. All right, so we can see here from this testimony that was released, he was in a meeting in May when he saw evidence of ballot harvesting, and this is video evidence and cell phone evidence along with testimony and bank records that are corroborated on, all of that. He looked at that and he said it was compelling and which should be investigated. So then in November of 21, he calls me and says, we're not going to investigate because I'm a team player. And if the governor doesn't want to investigate, we're not going to investigate. And of course, that was not the only thing that happened in Georgia. And what we saw in Fulton County very recently is a big clue as to just how deep it goes. Now, you remember that I told you the FBI field office in Atlanta had a new special agent in charge appointed by Kash Patel because his predecessor had been fired. Well, it appears that he wasn't exactly fired. He was forced out because before the FBI and the DOJ got to Fulton County, several days before, in fact, the former director of the Atlanta field office, Paul Brown, sent a warning letter to Fulton County. Look at this. He sent a letter to the Fulton County Board of Elections, and that would be the director, Nadine Williams. And he said, and this is before they even had, I believe, the final search warrant. It is requested by the Federal Bureau of Investigation that Fulton County Board of Elections voluntarily produce the below listed records related to the November 2020 presidential and senatorial general elections. He requested the paper ballots, the ballot envelopes, the voter tally records. That's not how you spell tally. The batch tally sheets, again, spelled incorrectly. Tabulator poll tapes, and that's also not how you spell poll. Documents related to missing voter records, including missing tabulator poll tapes. Production of these documents can be made in person. Then he gives the address of where they went. And he said, you can also call us. Now, by doing this, he effectively put them on notice. He told them, guys, we're coming. And for the last several years, you've been able to get away with this. So if in the meantime, between us telling you we're coming to take this stuff and then us showing up to actually pick it up, if it mysteriously found its way into the trash can, then we would never actually know. He basically deserved to get fired. And it appears that his resignation was accepted, and then the new special agent in charge was put in, and then the raid actually happened. Even more than that, here is the current Fulton County Chairman, Rob Pitts, speaking once again. Also, it turns out that he got 2 calls from a source, one before the raid and then one after, telling him that he and others in Fulton County do not have the luxury of relaxing because they're going to be arrested. Take a listen to this.
Well, I'm told that. I mean, I received a call on Monday before last Wednesday, before the raid, that there were going to be arrests in Georgia. Secretary of State, his deputy, Sterling, I believe his name is, me.
Gabriel Sterling is a character I'm sure you remember from the 2020 election. He was effectively the reason that all of that fraud was able to take place in the way that it did. He's currently running for Secretary of State in Georgia. If you live in Georgia, by all that's holy, please do not vote for Gabriel Sterling. Tell every single person you know that Gabriel Sterling is like arsenic for the American public. He cannot hold any office in the future. Gabriel Sterling is straight evil. He is spawn of Satan. Okay, and if Gabriel Sterling gets anywhere near the Secretary of State's office, it's going to be like Michigan on steroids.
And 2 or 3 others. That did not happen on Monday. It didn't happen on Tuesday. But lo and behold, on Wednesday, the FBI shows up. And in addition to the FBI showing up, when Tulsi Gabbard showed up and we'd heard a rumor that she may be coming, I couldn't believe it. But I didn't meet her, didn't talk to her, but she was.
Well, dadgummit.
In fact, there. So that leads me to believe, and any rational thinking person, that there's something sinister going on here. There's something bigger than just the FBI.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, he's right.
Confiscating the records that they took. So that's why I say that. But nothing happened. Now, after.
I like that. The devil went down to Georgia. He was looking for an election to steal. He was in a bind because he was way behind and he was willing to make a deal. I'd have to come up with the rest of the lyrics.
After the FBI raid on Wednesday, on Friday, I received another call. Actually, it was Monday, this Monday. Same source saying that you guys can't relax, even though the FBI has been there and they've confiscated the 700 boxes. Arrests are coming. So we'll have to wait and see. Well,
hallelujah! Now, I just want to go on record and say that this is an ally of Mr. Pitts. This is not a non-patriot on X saying arrests are coming, arrests are happening. It's finally happening. It is not them. It is them. It is them. They are running scared. When they saw Tulsi Gabbard walk into that warehouse, they said, oh, shit. Somebody check my pants, because I know that this is much, much bigger than anything we possibly thought it could have been. Let me see. Lee Walden says, hat tip to CanCon and Badlands and Dan Bongino. You, sir, are still a steely-eyed missile man. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Lee also says, no one is above the law, you mofos. No one is above the law. Now, I fully believe that they are currently just putting together the best possible case they can. It is, of course, they probably already know quite a bit. I would imagine they already have a fair amount of communications. They've already got that state election board report. They've got everything that we've dug up over the last several years. This is going to be a case that these people are not going to be able to weasel out of. If they indict Gabriel Sterling and haul Gabriel Sterling out in handcuffs, good God, I'm going to have the best day that day. Lee Walden also says, commie rat bastards. Yes, sir. That is the truth. All right, now we're going to talk about Epstein because I found so much stuff about Epstein. All right, so the original Epstein investigation was called Operation Leap Year. Take a look at this email. We don't know who sent it, and we don't know where it went. But the subject is huge problem, and the date is Tuesday, July 8th of 2008. Now, the person receiving the email is somebody named Ricky. Whoever sent it says, hi, Ricky. I'm sorry. I know that you're busy, but a bunch of my old emails have disappeared, and they are very important. In my inbox, I have a subfolder named Leap Year, and it looks like everything earlier than September 2007 is now gone. Is there a way to retrieve them? They are now the subject of some litigation, so it is really important. Thank you. Now, I don't know if this was somebody working in the FBI, if this is maybe somebody on Epstein's legal team, but obviously whatever was contained in that email inbox was something that was vitally important. Just depends on who this actually is that's sending this email. But yeah, very interesting. This is all related to the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the only way that I know of that a whole bunch of your emails can just go missing is if somebody physically deletes them off of the server, which is the kind of thing that an intelligence agency would have the ability to do. Artsy Joan, thank you so much, Joan. $10 Rumble Rant, Muffin and Chi-Chi Treat Fund. Another great show, Zach. You were the best part of our day. God bless. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and that really does warm my heart. Thank you so much. Also, Filter Dog, thank you for the cookie. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. No thanks, Joe. Good to see you over there on Pilled, my friend. He says, thanks, Lisa and Zach. Happy hump day. So fun to see all these libtards falling all over themselves and acting as stupid as Q referenced in the drops. God bless, brother. Love you and Lisa. Love you too, homie. And then Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie as well. G Fontez119 on Rumble says, I find it interesting that the guy with an alleged source giving notice of raid and then arrests, he wasn't all over every means of communication to warn everybody of what he says he knew in advance. Here's the thing. If you start doing that, if you start warning people that the FBI is about to come and arrest or at least raid people, and you tell people, hey, start deleting evidence, you're going to catch some additional federal charges yourself. I would say likely he probably spoke to whomever he could have in person. But to have that conversation electronically or to send an email, anything that could be traced, he would have been putting himself in greater legal jeopardy. So, all right, now take a look at this. Now, what many people know is that Jeffrey Epstein was a registered sex offender down in Florida. But Jeffrey Epstein also was a registered sex offender based upon an indictment by a grand jury in July of 2006, again, for soliciting prostitution in the state of New York. So Jeffrey Epstein was a sex offender in multiple states. Now, we know this because we have this application and letter from U.S. Customs and Border Protection. It's written to Hyperion Air, and it says, Mr. Fareed, the application for renewal of the visa waiver program contract for LSJ LLC has been received and processed. An examination of CBP records reveals the carrier was initially accepted into the VWP on September 21st, 2006. In addition, a review of the carrier's record showed no evidence the previous contract was terminated. Additionally, an approved CBP form 177, I-775 and I-420 are enclosed with this letter. Jeffrey Epstein is the managing member of this organization. This is the paperwork that Jeffrey Epstein would have been able to use to fly freely throughout the world, going to Europe or other places around the world to pick up girls and bring them back here into the United States. The signatory Visa waiver program means that through a legal agreement with the United States government, he is allowed to transport citizens from designated countries without having to have them obtain a visa. So this, quite literally, using this company, Hyperion Air, JEGE Incorporated, LSJ Incorporated, these are the legal vehicles that Jeffrey Epstein was able to use for cover to be a human trafficker. And it's just another piece of evidence to suggest that Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with intelligence, United States government, and other global intelligence agencies is deep and very, very real. I don't know if you guys saw the tweet that I put out yesterday, but I found this on Reddit when I was scrolling around looking on the Jeffrey Epstein board there yesterday. Lefties all over the internet are freaking out because they're reading the Epstein files and they're saying, oh my God, everything these crazy people have been talking about for years is true. I don't even know what to do with myself. My life is falling apart. I am questioning everything. And I shared it and I was just like, anybody want to tell them about 9/11 or the Clinton body count or the McMartin preschool or maybe the Finders cult? I mean, there are so many different things that these people just simply don't have the mental bandwidth to process at this time. But as a result of these Epstein files, again, coming from President Trump's administration, the lid is being blown off, and it is affecting very powerful people in a number of different areas around the world. Yes, the Great Awakening, exactly. The awakening is real. Now, I also wanted to show you this in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's visa waiver program status. This is from the Department of Justice, and this is an alert that would go out anytime somebody like Jeffrey Epstein would travel to another country that was known to be a hotspot for child sex tourism. Now, this is a travel advisory telling the country that is going to receive the sex offender that the sex offender is coming to their nation. So this is sent out by the Violent Crimes Against Children section, Major Case Coordination Unit. This particular alert went out on September 26th of 2016, and it was sent to someone named Lagat Paris. Maybe that was Lagat in Paris, but the subject is Child Sex Tourism Initiative Person of Interest. Summary: notification of traveling child sex offender Jeffrey Edward Epstein. CSO Epstein is planning to travel to France on September 24th, 2016, and is scheduled to depart on October 5th. Details: on June 30th of 2008, Epstein was convicted of procuring a person under the age of 18 for prostitution. Epstein is planning to visit France and provided 22 Avenue Foch, Paris, France, as the address that he was traveling to. Here, his itinerary: September 24th, 2016, Epstein departs New York by private aircraft bearing U.S. registration number N212JE and expects to arrive at Le Bourget Airport in Paris, France on the 24th at approximately 8:30 local time. FBI analyst comment: no action is required. This message is only intended to advise you that this individual, previously convicted of a sex crime against a child, is traveling to your country and for any follow-up deemed necessary. So again, this is standard boilerplate stuff, but anytime you've got a sex offender that travels the world and goes to a foreign nation, this would be sent out to the authorities in that nation so that they could keep an eye on him. G. Fontes also says, makes sense, and his giving a warning could cause weak links that may turn state's witness. Absolutely. Especially premature of the eventual Fed raid. I also think he had no source but lied for the free publicity. He may, but I think that the presence of a source that would warn him on something like that, that would likely mean that it was coming from someone within the FBI or the Department of Justice. And I firmly believe that there are still plenty of weak links in those organizations. Now, also very interesting, someone who they were a researcher on Reddit, they indexed every single video that was part of the Jeffrey Epstein document drops. And they took these videos and put them into a format so that you can go through and you can look at all of them. Now, these are literally, I believe, like it's over 1,000 videos. Many of them are only a second long. Not all of them have sound. Some of them are videos that, you know, I've shown you in the last couple of days. There are many in here that I have never seen. There isn't, again, anything like torture or gore or death or anything like that. Like Todd Blanche said, that's not going to be included. There's some stuff from Jeffrey Epstein's time in prison, from when he was either murdered or removed from the jail. And anyways, what's interesting about this is that it was only a matter of time before somebody did this. Whoever this was, they put it together rather quickly, and then they shared it on Reddit. And in about 20 minutes, whoever it was that created it took the site offline, removed everything, and then they put up an apology on Reddit, and then they deleted their account. Somebody else who had been working with them came forward and said the reason he took it down is because someone who is very powerful reached out to him directly and told him that if he didn't take it down, he would be taken out. They would remove him and they would take it down for him. So that's why this guy has completely disappeared from the internet, and also everyone on his team has disappeared from the internet. Now, we're only seeing this because within the first couple of minutes of this site coming online, someone made an archive on the Internet Archive. The videos that I've clicked on work. But I can't tell you with any certainty that all of the videos work. And yes, there are 1,994 total videos that are on here. So what I wanted to do was share it with you guys because I didn't want this opportunity to go by the wayside. So the only way you can access this is through the web archive link that I'm going to post here in the chat. And I encourage anybody who is a dedicated digger or a researcher that wants to look into these things and see if you can find anything that's worth sharing, please, by all means, do so. And feel free to share it with me. Feel free to tag me if you share something on Twitter and it looks like it's interesting and people need to see about it. You guys just let me know and we'll go ahead and watch it here on the show. But as an example, you know, one thing that we have here that I thought was notable appears to be a police interrogation interview with a very young girl. This is from November of 2005. So this would have been from the original investigation. And actually, now that I'm trying to click, I got to click open. That's right. Now, what they actually do is they link to the original video in the files of the Justice Department. Some of these videos, some of these files that the Justice Department released initially have been taken down. So it may be a broken link, but it's worth going through. And, it said too many requests. Oh, shit. I'm sorry. I didn't even think about that literally everybody would go ahead and click it. Save the link for later. Maybe try after the show and see if you can get in. Who do I think is manipulating the files, Kev says? Well, I mean, it's the Department of Justice. There's any number of reasons why files might get deleted. As an example, there was in the very first Epstein drop, there was a video that was included as part of the files that the FBI had on hand that purported to be a security camera inside Jeffrey Epstein's cell showing him either before or after he had been killed. That was created by AI, and they removed it simply because it had no evidentiary value and it was fake, and they didn't realize that initially. Of course, it caused a big hubbub because people are like, well, why are you deleting anything? Thank you very much for Beer at the Parade, raiding my stream over on Pilled. Appreciate you, homie. Also, there was a fake Ehud Barak video that was included with this latest release that is still out there. You can find it on X. It appears to be somebody who claims to have worked for Ehud Barak or Jeffrey Epstein. He's just going through the Epstein Black Book, kind of talking about, you know, how the network works in the background. It's my understanding that that was determined to be fake as well. So that was also deleted by the Department of Justice. There are other things, you know, maybe they're just trying to clean it up. Like I said, a lot of these videos appear to just be like the first second of one of these videos that you're going to find on here. The full video will be there, but the shortened, abridged version of the video, they might just take it down just to make it easier for people to go through. Now, this is a 23-minute video from inside a police interrogation room, and there's no audio. But you can see here, it appears to be a small person answering questions to the police. So, you know, considering that there's no audio, not a lot of investigatory value per se, but certainly for purposes of memorialization, good to have it on there. Here's one which appears to be a small dog. Let's take a look at this real quick, just see who it is. Some of these have audio in some parts, and then the audio goes away. Looks like the dog is eating this woman's finger. Cute dog. Also appears to be a young girl. Look, there's a lot of videos that Jeffrey Epstein was receiving from these girls, from these women. Plenty of emails where he's talking about paying for their college or their apartments and stuff, and in response, he's asking them for naughty pictures and stuff like that. All right, so nothing really there, but G. Fontes also says, yes, I think it's possible, but if he had the prior knowledge, what does he gain by exposing it? Or was he telling the FBI he wants to deal, knows a bad FBI apple? Well, he could have said it publicly because, of course, it had news value at the time he said it. It gets the word out in that way that likely, if you were involved in this, you might find yourself getting arrested. So those people would undoubtedly want to know so that they could get themselves some legal representation in the meantime. And also exactly what you just suggested right there. Maybe he's broadcasting that I know this is coming. Maybe somebody can come talk to me ahead of time and we can get this ball rolling, and maybe I can roll over on somebody else. That was a video from the Epstein files. I was just demonstrating how the archive actually worked. I haven't seen anything in there yet that appears to incriminate anybody that we haven't already gotten information on. But clearly, there is the potentiality for something to be very damaging in there, and it was enough for high-level people to threaten this guy's life and get him to take the whole thing down. Just as somebody who used to build websites, I know that there is a certain amount of work and time, effort, that goes into creating a website like that. And, I mean, that's no fun to have to see your work completely wiped off the internet, especially after he had built up all of this hype for it on Reddit. Now, take a look at this email. This is an email conversation between Jeffrey Epstein and someone else. This is in 2012. This is after he had served that 13 months in work release at the Palm Beach County Jail under that original plea deal. And he's talking about the procurement of young girls. So in this beginning of the email, Jeffrey writes to the other person, I would teach redacted, not redacted. You didn't even say thanks. So he's telling this person that he's speaking with that they're not grateful for what he's done for them. The person replies about a half hour later, really? I'm sorry. Thank you for everything. Jeffrey writes just a couple of minutes later, I was just trying to make everyone happy. I hope you are not mad. You must know that I am always very thankful. I'm glad you had so much time yesterday. How was the girl? Sounds like Jeffrey procured a girl and sent them to entertain whomever it is that he's speaking about. The person replies and says, mad? Jeffrey replies and says, no, just disappointed. More of the same. No giving, little effort, old, safe friends, nothing either new or sexy. You are too smart not to understand. Obviously, he's trying to say something without saying it directly. So then then the individual responds, and this is what is particularly damning. They say, pleasure spending time with you, but you stopped teaching me, right? If you want a girl that would, pardon my language, suck your cock, say so. But that was not the deal you made last time you were in Paris, did you? We had a great time yesterday. Thank you. I'm sorry if it wasn't as you've expected. You told me to bring over one girl. You didn't say whether it can be a friend or not. I already came with 3. You didn't think they were pretty? So clearly, then he says, finally, what do you want exactly? Easy young girls? ? All right, so there we go. The other night with John was asking for direct proof that Jeffrey Epstein was, engaging in sexual activity with people who were underage, or that Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking women to people. There is plenty of insinuation in these emails to suggest that there is definitely a transfer of goods. Those goods being the girls that Jeff and these people consistently refer to. And there is definitely sexual activity going on. Of course, nobody is going to write in black and white in an email, thank you for the underage girl that you sent me to abuse. Nobody is going to be that stupid to say it, but they get to the edge of it. Now, take a look at this one. That was, thank you for a fun night. Your littlest girl was a little naughty. And Jeff says, thanks. Your littlest girl was a little naughty. Now, in this email, this did not come from this release. I believe it came in a prior release, but I had only just seen it. It was actually publicized in an article by Bloomberg in the fall. But in this conversation between Jeffrey Epstein and a lawyer, a Harvard lawyer by the name of Mitch Weber, they discuss how to skirt the age of consent laws so that they can legally traffic minors for sex, which, of course, is not the kind of thing that you do if you are not a sex trafficker. Take a look at this. So Jeffrey Epstein is speaking to Mitch Weber. Mitch says to Epstein, I'm sorry, I was a little confused about, and then, so he must be paraphrasing what was said early. What are you asking on the phone? I see what you are asking now. I was a little confused about what you were asking on the phone. I see what you were asking now. The question is, what would happen if one were to transport a minor for sex or transport oneself with the intent to have sex with a minor into a state in which the age of consent is below 18, assuming the minor is above the age of consent in the given state? And your intuition was right. The answer is that there is no violation of the law. Jeffrey Epstein replies to Mr. Weber and says, let's also look at sex tourism laws. Going someplace with the specific intent of having underage sex. This is the only time in these emails that I have seen an explicit reference to sex with children. But of course, the insinuation is fairly rampant throughout most of these emails. Now, I think that, however, he is incorrect. If you transport a minor for sex, that's still going to be transporting a minor for sex. You're going to be breaking a law in one state or breaking a law in another state. But Mitch Weber, as a Harvard-trained lawyer, is certainly interesting because Harvard is deep state central. Now, take a look at this. This is a little bit of information about just who Mitch Weber is. Mitch Weber looks like he is a partner at, what is the law firm that he's a partner at? So, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. He's got his own law firm. A partner at the litigation department. Mitch Weber's practice is focused on, law and stuff. So he is a member of the bar in the District of Columbia and in New York. He also does congressional investigations, it says right here. And he is also a member of the United States Holocaust Memorial Board, and he lives in Rockville, Maryland. Mitchell Weber, right there. This was as of December 29th, 2025. So he is a presidential appointee at the Holocaust Memorial Council, which is part of the Holocaust Memorial Museum. I don't know if President Trump appointed him or if Joe Biden appointed him. But either way, Mitchell Weber as a lawyer would be the guy that you would ask if you were intending to transport a minor for sex and you wanted to know what the laws would be. So Mitch Weber, I hope that he comes and speaks about this very, very soon. Now, we're going to get just a little bit more disturbing because in this email exchange, Jeffrey Epstein is speaking to someone and he talks about little girls having good bodies. So he writes, Happy New Year. Yes, I'm here. Just got my visa. I'll go to the 2B Riga agency tomorrow. That was a modeling agency in Europe. If you want, I walk around. There are little girls. They have good bodies, but the face is weird and they are not so tall. So it sounds to me like he's not speaking about young women. He's actually talking about little girls. So this modeling agency is based in Latvia, and the objectification of a child, speaking about their physical attributes and then also speaking about the sort of disconnect, their weird faces, because they look like children still. This was supposed to be some type of a modeling scout that Epstein was going on. And this was the pattern that he had. He pretended to operate a modeling agency. Jean-Luc Brunel also did a lot of this for him in Europe. And again, this is in 2010. So this is, after he had already been charged down in Florida. And he would go to Europe. He would pick these girls up and then he would bring them back. Now, if you look in the emails, Latvia, the nation where 2B Riga agency is situated, it appears over 500 times. Riga, the city, appears more than 800 times. And often within the context of these conversations, they're modeling agencies. They're talking about the passports of Latvian girls, the flights to Riga, booking hotels there and stuff. And I would hazard a guess, I think it's safe to say that every single one of those trips would have been for the procurement of girls to bring and to traffic for Jeffrey Epstein. Once again, so much evidence of trafficking in these emails, short of pictures of the girls jumping onto Epstein's plane, even though we've got pictures of girls on Epstein's plane. Now, here is an exchange from 2017, which is also referencing what, for all intents and purposes, appears to be a child. Jeffrey Epstein is writing an email to a person who is redacted, and this is the reply to Jeffrey. It says, "Hi, Jeffrey. I met redacted today. She is like Lolita from Nabokov, femme miniature. So should I send her? So now I should send you her type of candidates only. Tomorrow we travel for Bern for visas. Kind regards, redacted." Okay, so Lolita is a book and a movie. Book is written by Vladimir Nabokov, turned into a number of films made in Hollywood. It's about an adult man who becomes obsessed with a prepubescent girl. He moves into the house with her and her mother, and then he kidnaps the little girl because he wants to engage in illicit behavior with her. And the Lolita Express is named for the book Lolita by Nabokov. And a Lolita refers to a sexualized child. Now, they also refer to them as femme miniature, so a little woman, and specifies if they should only send Lolitas to him. This is obviously talking about the trafficking of children. We know exactly what Jeffrey Epstein did with these girls. Now, here is another email, which also, of course, has some disturbing stuff in it. We've had a number of references to torture in these emails, the torture of people, and we don't always know exactly who that torture is directed at. So Jeffrey Epstein writes on September 8th of 2011, "What would you like me to do with your friend?" I'm sure that he's referring to a young girl. Then he says, "Do you want me to try to do her or just torture her?" So you got the choice. He could either abuse her one way sexually, or he could abuse her physically and torture her. So the person writes back and says, "She wrote me on BlackBerry Messenger that you are very nice and clever and sent a smiley face. She has excellent oral skills." So she's already being abused. This person is Tancredi Marchiolo. Jeff says, "Understood, thanks." And then he also says, "I wrote her that she is generally unpolite and not thankful, just like that. She should be more thankful in life and joy." Sounds like maybe she didn't put out in the way that Jeffrey Epstein wanted her to. Now, I'm only going to mention this one in the context of, going back to the very first days when we were getting all of those, the raw tips that were coming into the FBI tip line. This is another such unhinged email. This person was writing emails and copying like Keir Starmer and Jeffrey Epstein's old email addresses and a whole bunch of people at the FBI, DOJ, world leaders all over the place. And a lot of it was totally unhinged. But he says in here, "Please don't rape and murder my family. You effing barbarian, and you spend billions supporting the Palestinians, yet you make a deal with the devil against your own. F you." This is just an unhinged individual who was sending emails to anybody who would listen to them. I can tell you, I have gotten plenty of emails just like this, which really don't make a lot of sense. But here is Tancredi Salvador Marchiolo. He's a financial professional in hedge funds. He's a partner at Bremer Capital, LLC. They are out of London. He's got a background in finance and compliance. He also worked someplace called the EIM Group, and he is a board member here. He's been mentioned in these Epstein files, that 2011 email right there talking about the torture of a young girl. He's also associated with a couple of other financial service businesses, and he's also being connected to Russian oligarchs. And so probably, there's trafficking and money laundering going on between them as well. Lee Walden said, something going on, unreported emails of Epstein involved in DNA eugenics, Ukraine, underground biolabs, trafficking children, genetic testing, Virgin Island biolab. We have talked about that in the past. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Jeffrey Epstein had the goal of creating a perfect master race from his own genetics. I have more on that from Zorro Ranch. Zorro Ranch was a big part of that. Would not surprise me if this was also taking place in the Virgin Islands. There was perceivably there was an underground facility built there as well. Take a look at this. Oh, this is the email that we just looked at about torturing that young girl. All right, now I don't know if you guys saw the show that we did on Baseless Conspiracies about the human hunts. But go back to the posts when there was a post made by Q about the Rothschilds and specifically the Black Forest and the idea of human hunts taking place in the Black Forest on the Rothschild estate. It was like 2 days later, the Rothschilds sell the property out of nowhere after owning it for like 150 years. It was their ancestral family vacation home. And Ariane de Rothschild, a member of the modern-day Rothschild family who had a working and professional and personal relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, as Jeffrey Epstein was also employed by the Rothschild family. In this email chain from 2016, Ariane de Rothschild sends a picture to Jeffrey Epstein, and she says, "Got it. Amazing old male and amazing hunt. My bankers should be careful." And Jeffrey responds saying, "Great photo." And she says, "Thanks, thrilling hunt, Ariane de Rothschild." Now, you guys, we got hunters in the chat. Yes, Peter Nygaard, absolutely. Too many trafficking pedophile eugenicists that are out there. So when you talk about a buck, okay? I mean, do you say amazing old male? Would you call it an amazing old male? I mean, this sounds to me like maybe they hunted a person and Ariane de Rothschild sent Jeffrey Epstein a picture of it. I mean, this is before the Black Forest estate would have been sold. And here she is sending a picture of something that she hunted and saying that it was an amazing hunt, very thrilling. So I think that this might be pointing to those human hunts that we've talked about in the past. In addition to that, now this is where we're going to get into what Lee was just talking about. Epstein was also a board member of the Lifeboat Foundation. So their business model is the construction of underground bunkers and tunnels. That would come in handy. There were tunnels that were built on the Virgin Islands on Little St. James. There was also reportedly the underground facility at Zorro Ranch. It looks like in the emails, it talks about the fact that there are more than 6 levels underground at Zorro Ranch. And considering that Jeffrey Epstein was on the board of a company that specialized in the actual construction of underground bunkers and tunnels, it stands to reason that perhaps the Lifeboat Foundation is who completed the underground construction for Jeffrey Epstein at Zorro Ranch or perhaps any of his other properties. So just highly interesting. Here we can see in this email with Tyler Shears in 2014, "Jeff, we were wondering if you would like to join the Lifeboat Foundation Advisory Board. We just had Ray Kurzweil, who is a famous transhumanist, and Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, Eric S. Maskin, Richard J. Roberts, and Wol Soyinka join the board, so you would have some good company." Eric Klein, Lifeboat Foundation. He said, and then, "Hi, Jeffrey, can we say yes to this?" So this is his assistant writing with Jeffrey's emails. "Can we say yes to this? Board members have bio pages with website links. This could be very helpful for visibility. If I get your okay, I'll set it up." So also the fact that he was directly connected to a company that provided this service makes it all the more likely that this underground scientific breeding facility truly existed at Zorro Ranch. Now, we also have WikiLeaks getting in on the action. So in this exchange right here, Jeffrey Epstein is conversing about how to set people up at business, media, newspapers, etc., to get taken down for Me Too allegations, with the express intention of having the heat taken off of him. And I thought that this was a just staggering revelation that much of what we saw in the mid-2010s of famous people getting taken down for sexual assault, sexual abuse allegations, bad behavior with women, it looks like it was directly coming from Jeffrey Epstein's own camp. Now, Jeffrey Epstein was spending $10,000 or more per month to manage SEO, search engine optimization, for his own name and stories related to his criminal cases. Part of his management of his reputation was in that 10,000 plus every single month. Also, his hiring of Steve Bannon to produce this documentary film about him was also part of that. But it looks like another major part of it was simply telling on other people who were doing pretty much exactly the same thing he did. So in this email, he talks about outing then publisher of the New York Times, Mr. Sulzberger, and that by doing so, it would see the end of the establishment. Now, 1 month before the unexpected and abrupt departure of Arthur Oakes, also known as Pinch Sulzberger Jr., he was the publisher of the New York Times, Jeffrey Epstein writes to attorney Brad Karp, and he says, "How about Sulzberger? Would that be funny?" Karp replies, "That would be pretty ironic and give a whole new meaning to his nickname, Pinch." So one day after this exchange between Karp and Epstein, Epstein then converses with journalist Michael Wolff, and they discuss how a sex scandal would essentially be the end of the establishment as we know it. Epstein says, if Bannon outed Charlie and Pinch Sulzberger, then what? Wolff says, the end of the establishment as we know it. Epstein says, that's the way I see it. Pinch equals Sulz, your silver bullet. Charlie Rose, at the same time, was fired from CBS 3 weeks later after this conversation over sexual misconduct allegations. Mark Epstein told the Business Insider in 2023 Bannon was working with Jeffrey to help Jeffrey rehabilitate his reputation. In another exchange between Michael Wolff and Jeffrey Epstein on the 11th of December 2017, they discuss a number of other high-profile candidates for the next round of sexual abuse scandals. Wolff writes, big names on the horizon. My favorite, Arthur Sulzberger. Epstein replied, you and I are old news? Meaning him and Michael Wolff. I didn't know that Michael Wolff had his own sexual abuse scandal, but perhaps that's one of the reasons why he was so willing to have a friendly relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And then on December 13th of 2017, the New York Times announces the retirement. 66-year-old Pinch is retiring as the publisher of the New York Times. His retirement took effect 2 weeks later. One day after that announcement, Jeffrey Epstein emails a longstanding contact, a man by the name of Landon Thomas Jr., who was a journalist at the New York Times. And he wrote, Sulzberger, told you, to which Thomas Jr. asked for proof that Epstein was driving this, and Epstein said, wait. Now, Epstein's relationship with the Sulzberger family actually goes back to the 1970s. He spent some time at the Sulzberger family country estate, and this is according to a draft Epstein profile that was written by none other than the journalist Epstein contacted after Sulzberger left, Landon Thomas Jr. This was for New York Magazine back in 2015, but for whatever reason, Landon Thomas never published the expose. And the New York Times has now, instead of leaning into this revelation, they're kind of downplaying it. They say that, oh no, this was just revelations by a bygone elite steeped in a clubby world that is all but gone, essentially saying that that world no longer exists. When we had the excision of all of these wealthy elite sexual offenders under the Time's Up and the Me Too movement, we excised them from our circles, and that doesn't happen anymore. But now the New York Times is run by Pinch's son. His name is A.G. Sulzberger. He's the 5th generation Sulzberger to run the paper, and the family has been running the New York Times since 1896. So it's interesting that they're commenting on it at all, but it's even more interesting to me that Jeffrey Epstein was looking to perhaps throw some chum in the water so that it would take the attention off of him and maybe even normalize the idea that this happens behind the scenes and people just didn't know about it because nobody was willing to talk about it previously. Now we get to probably, in my opinion, the most important story of today. Before we do, I have one final message from our friends over here on a Rumble. You guys, they can freeze your accounts, they can shut off your cards, they can lock you out of your own money, they can do it overnight because banks do not protect you. They control you, and that's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet. It's a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold that is real gold on the blockchain. And through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. It's not paper gold. It's not an IOU. It's real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. So you can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when the traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold 1 for 1. That is power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet. It's peer-to-peer, outside the banking system, no permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. So check it out at wallet.rumble.com, or if you're on Rumble, you can use that QR code that you see on screen or the link in the chat. Thank you to Sean Joe for the 2 cookies over on Pilled. I appreciate it. All right, so when Jeffrey Epstein was either murdered or taken out of the plot, removed from the story, the first thing I believed was that likely Jeffrey Epstein was preparing to give himself as a cooperating witness to the Department of Justice, because Jeffrey Epstein was never the top of the food chain. The names you know are simply the names they allow you to know. It's like Maduro down in Venezuela. Maduro was the character on television, but the people actually pulling the strings are people who you would not be familiar with. So now, as part of this new release, there is an insinuation from the DOJ, which seems to indicate that Jeff was actually about to cooperate with federal prosecutors in the weeks before he was found dead in jail. This coincides with the first attempt on his life, and obviously it coincides with him no longer being part of this story. So what we have here is Jeffrey Epstein after that first attempt. This is that suicide smock that they put you in. And there is some bruising around his neck because either his roommate, that cop who was the drug dealer, either he tried to kill him. That's actually what was said. But, obviously he's never admitted to that. Or it was somebody else. So Jeffrey Epstein was set to potentially cooperate with the Department of Justice in his sex trafficking case. The New York Post reported federal prosecutors met with lawyers for Jeffrey Epstein on July 29th, 2019. At that time, his camp said, in very general terms, we want to discuss the possibility of a resolution of this case and the possibility of the defendant's cooperation. That was part of an official FBI record. Now, as I said, Jeffrey Epstein was not the top of the pyramid. Jeffrey Epstein was merely the guy on television. He was someone who had access to tremendous wealth, tremendous power, tools of blackmail. Jeffrey Epstein's utility was in his ability to operate without having to worry about the law coming down on him. Jeffrey Epstein, as soon as he was arrested and charged, became a liability to anyone that he did business with who had a vested interest in making sure their names or their activities did not become public knowledge. That's not only the individuals that Jeffrey Epstein was servicing, but it's also the very intelligence agencies that Jeffrey Epstein was providing information to. Much like Robert Maxwell got a little bit loose, stole $400 million from the pension fund from his company. And Jeffrey Epstein said he allegedly tried to blackmail the Mossad. Well, the Mossad doesn't like to be blackmailed. It's a lot easier for the Mossad to just kill you and shove you off the edge of your yacht in the middle of the ocean than it is for them to wire $400 million into the account of your choice. Jeffrey Epstein was living in a situation where obviously people could get to him. And how much money do you think it would cost to have an inmate who's already sitting on death row walk into a convicted sex offender's jail cell and hang them with their own bed sheets? I don't think you'd have to pay that much money at all. But you could offer them probably $10,000 and they'd be willing to do it. Maybe $5,000. Who knows? But if you start throwing around $100,000, $250,000, $1 million, think about how quickly you would have people lining up in that New York jail ready to kill Jeffrey Epstein at a moment's notice. You wouldn't even have to only pay them. You likely would have to pay those guards too, so that they would go to sleep, so that they would forget to turn the cameras on, so that they would just turn their heads at the right time. There would obviously be a number of people who would have to have been in on it. But the only way to do that and do it successfully would be to make sure those people were paid off. As soon as Jeffrey Epstein's lawyers went to the FBI and said, our client is ready to work with you, that information got out to the people who did not want that to happen. So whether they came in, took Jeffrey Epstein in the middle of the night and flew him off to a beach in Tel Aviv, or they had somebody go in and murder him, I think either is just as likely. It certainly would be easier for them if he was dead. Now, Patrick D says, that says it all, Zach. They faked his death and he's turning state's evidence. Trump's saying everything is fake. He meaning his death is fake? It very possibly could be. Now, it all depends on who was able to get to him. Because if it took several weeks for Jeffrey Epstein, for his lawyers to say to the FBI, we want to work, and then they let him go back into Gen Pop, and then a couple of weeks later he's murdered or, has his body swapped out for a dead person. If the DOJ did it, then it would be well within their interest to excise him from the situation and put him into some type of WITSEC program. But if the deep state pedophile traffickers got to him first, I think it's more likely that they would have killed him. Denise Ann says, I always thought that Epstein was killed by Hillary, but now I'm wondering if it goes beyond her. Thanks for always putting together a great show, Zach. Hillary would certainly be one of those people who would not want Jeffrey Epstein to speak out. But by no means is she the most powerful, or is she the only one. I think that the list of people who might pay to see Jeffrey Epstein murdered is limitless, essentially. I mean, think about how many years, how many decades this guy was active, how many people he compromised, how many girls he abused, how many intelligence agencies, how many world governments did he work with, how many people did he piss off? I mean, the list is going to be long at the end of the day. So if the DOJ was successfully able to fake his murder, swap him out, and then get him into a safe house, that's awesome. That would be so great if that's what happened. But as of yet, they haven't told us that. Hillary, I mean, she easily could have helped. Somebody came to her and said, hey, I'm going around, I'm putting a pool together. I'm putting a dead pool together for all the people who want to help us make sure that Jeffrey Epstein doesn't make it out of that prison. I have no doubt she would have thrown some money into that pot. Now, also right here, there are emails from Jeffrey Epstein and another journalist. This woman is named Nellie Bowles. She apparently worked at the Free Press, co-founded it with her husband. And in 2018, they were just casually chatting it up, talking about life and stuff. Take a look at this. All right. So This was in 2018. Oh, this woman is married to Barry Weiss, who now is running CBS News. So Epstein and Barry Weiss's wife were good friends. Nellie Bowles. Hello to Nellie. Jeff will be in New York tomorrow and Wednesday. Might be around and available for you to come meet him. Masha believes you will both enjoy each other's company, perhaps Wednesday at 11 a.m. And she says, Wednesday at 11 a.m. is perfect. I'll be there. Of course, Jeffrey Epstein is already a pedophile. Somebody who's running a news organization would certainly know that. Good morning, Nellie. Reconfirming you will come see Jeffrey today at 11 a.m. Thanks. And she says, confirmed. Thanks. Great. So I wonder what their meeting was like. What did they talk about? Here, Jeffrey is emailing her October 15th of 2018. And he says, well, actually, she says, I missed this, and I just figured out who you are. It actually went great. How's New York? Which price is trying to buy the house today? No, okay. So Jeffrey wrote her October 5th first. How did it go introducing your partner to mom? Meaning Barry Weiss, the woman now running CBS News. Even better than the good career move? And she said, I just figured out who you are. He said, when STEU, and when are you and your babe back in New York City? When are you and Barry Weiss? I wonder if Barry Weiss ever met with Jeffrey Epstein. That's certainly a question I feel like Barry Weiss should answer. In another document, Epstein, the files reference the same meeting we talked about with the feds, but they note defense counsel did not make a specific proposal and they did not indicate what the nature of Epstein's cooperation might be, if any. Well, of course, those are some cards that the defense team would want to keep rather close to their chest. If they say something specific like, we can give you information on X, Y, and Z on these people, or I can expose for you fully the global pedophile sex trafficking ring that I was a part of, well, then it's going to make it a lot more likely that he's not going to make it out of there. It was suggested that defense counsel contact the SDNY, where Maureen Comey was working, if Epstein was prepared to accept responsibility for his conduct and or they had a specific proposal for a resolution of this case. So, yeah, it could go either way as far as I'm concerned. Oh, we also have some new photographs from the files of Jeffrey Epstein's alleged corpse. And I'd also like, you know what, let me play you this as well. This is from the interview that Bannon did with him. And the one thing that really stood out to me is that Jeffrey Epstein is not some genius. Okay? This is not someone that you look at or you hear him speak and you think, wow, he's a financial whiz. He's the most sought after financial manager on Wall Street. I think that he was always just a pedophile who was willing to sacrifice any morals that he might have had. And he walked into this situation and they said, how would you like access to essentially unlimited amounts of money? You know, would you be willing to traffic children if that's what we wanted you to do? And he probably said, you know what? Sure, money is money. He appears to be very obsessed with money. S2G109, he is definitely a puppet. Again, he was merely the guy on television. There were other people who made Jeffrey Epstein, Les Wexner being one of them. Why is there no audio? Well, that's weird. There should be audio on this, but... Huh. Okay. Well, either way. So we have this photograph of the noose, the alleged noose. This is a picture of him being worked on by the EMTs. There is another close-up picture of them performing chest compressions. These are some pages that we've seen before of the autopsy, which show the hyoid bones in his neck having been broken. Which, of course, are bones that are not broken when you hang yourself, when you commit suicide. But they are bones that are broken.
Nearly home. I just need more space.
What
I feel like
the heck?
I'm suffocating.
Oh, no. Is this the
They are bones that are broken when you are murdered, when you are strangled by somebody else. And confirmed. Here is another picture of the body they presented as Jeffrey Epstein. You can see very tight ligature mark around his neck. There is a picture. This has been out in another form in the past. One thing that always stuck out to me in this photograph is that he has this wound on his lip. If you're killing yourself, you're also not going to punch yourself in the mouth. But if somebody is trying to kill you, well, then, of course, they will have to subdue you in order to get that noose around your neck. He also appears to have some injuries to his face. I still don't think that this body is Jeffrey Epstein. I've gone over that on many different occasions. The tattoo Buck sees was a temporary tattoo. The one picture that has been released, it's been out there for a while. It's like right after he got it done. There is at least one other picture which shows him just a couple of days after that, and the tattoo is clearly coming off. So yeah, definitely not a real tattoo, just a temporary tattoo. All right, now, this is another one that blew my mind. Do you guys remember the digs that I've done on Kate Spade? Okay, so if you go to the Baseless Conspiracies shows that I did on the Red Scarf murders, or going back to the actual death of Kate Spade back in 2018 on my channel, it would have been, that would have been on YouTube still. There is a lot of weird stuff about the death of Kate Spade, but getting even weirder, it appears that she and Jeffrey Epstein were friends, and they had an email conversation like the day before she allegedly committed suicide. On June 5th, 2018, Kate Spade responds to Jeffrey Epstein, and they made plans to hang out on the day she died. The day she allegedly hung herself with a red scarf on the door in her apartment. Like so many other people right around this time, it's very interesting that each and every one of those people was connected in one way to child trafficking or another. But I had no idea that Jeffrey Epstein and Kate Spade were friends of any kind. And I certainly did not know that they made plans to hang out on the day she was allegedly going to kill herself. So right here, come see me tomorrow. Kate Spade replies, "Great, see you then." So people who are going to kill themselves do not make plans for the future. That's just not what they do, because of course they're going to kill themselves. You can see here. Oh no, I'm sorry. It wasn't the day before. She made plans the day of. Jeffrey Epstein emails her at 6:21 a.m., June 5th, and then emails her again at 10:39 a.m. to say we should hang out tomorrow. And she, or somebody controlling her account, replies at 4:40 p.m., "Great, see you then." Her housekeeper found her in her apartment on the 5th. On June 5th of 2018. Now, they always said that she had bipolar disorder, she had suffered from anxiety and depression, and that she and her husband were breaking up. One of those, yes, David Spade's sister-in-law. If you'll remember, her husband showed up wearing that mask from, what was it, that Disney movie about mice. What was the Disney movie, guys, about the mice? Was it not the Travelers? Zach, are you aware that Elon Musk wore a red scarf to Dan Scavino's wedding on Sunday? No, but I tend to think that was a direct message to the people in, not Ratatouille. No, this was like back in the 70s or 80s when this came out. Not Ratatouille, not about a rat. It was about mice. The Rescuers. Thank you. It was The Rescuers. It was a classic. So yeah, Kate Spade and Jeffrey Epstein making plans to hang out the day she allegedly kills herself. All right, now, this is not an indictment, but it is yet another reference to pizza made in the Jeffrey Epstein emails. Jeffrey Epstein is not on this email, but the subject is the one that I found to be highly compelling. Not only did they mention pizza, but the subject is a U9 red pizza party. U9 red pizza party. What does that mean? Like under 9 red pizza party? I don't know. But Benjamin Moon messages Ike Groff and Leslie Groff and says, hi, I'm sorry, the Groffs message Benjamin Moon and say, hi, Ben, great game today. Wanted to check and see if you might be available for a pizza party next Saturday after the friendly Darien game we are having. It's been difficult trying to find a time for most people to be available to participate, but it seems next Saturday is best for most. Please let me know. Now, I don't know why they would redact the name of the person sending it. I mean, we can see that it's either Leslie or Ike Groff. Purple grape. Yeah, purple grape. But the U9 red pizza party. I mean, red blood. We were just talking about the red scarves. Pizza, obviously, is referring to children. U9, that really sticks in my craw. U9. So we also here have Bill Gates coming out to do damage control the day after his ex-wife, Melinda French Gates, comes out and says that he needs to face justice for everything that he did with Jeffrey Epstein. So let's take a look. Bill Gates is not doing so good right now.
Every minute I spent with him, I regret, and
Yes, Alias is correct. The Rescuers is also the one where one of the artists put a woman, a naked woman, in one of the windows in the background. It wasn't just a silhouette. Like, it was like full-on tatas. Like, it was a full naked woman torso.
Apologize that I did that.
Part of that issue of trust brings me to Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know what your relationship with him was.
Yeah, I met Jeffrey in 2011. So over a period of 3 years, I had a number of dinners with him. The focus was always, he knew a lot of very rich people, and he was saying he could get them to give money to global health. You know, in retrospect, that was a dead end, and I've said many times, but I'll say again, I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him.
You know what, I'll tell you what. There were plenty of other people who did not maintain relationships with Jeffrey Epstein after he was exposed as a sexual predator. And President Trump, well before Jeffrey Epstein was charged, of course, he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. He sent him packing. He said, you're not welcome here anymore. And he never saw the guy ever again, never hung out with him. But for some reason, Bill Gates, he liked hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. You'll remember, not that long ago, the reason Bill Gates is having to reply is because Jeffrey Epstein wrote himself a letter that he intended to send to Bill Gates, sending a series of veiled threats because it appeared that Bill Gates was trying to cut him out of his life, reminding Bill Gates that Bill had requested antibiotics that he could surreptitiously give to Melinda because Bill had picked something up, an STD, from Russian prostitutes.
No doubt seen the allegations, including some of them from the last 24 to 48 hours. Are they true?
No, apparently Jeffrey wrote an email to himself. That email was never sent. The email is, false. So I don't know what his thinking was there. You know, was he trying to attack me in some way? But
you can say it, Bill, blackmail. He was trying to blackmail you. And I think he did successfully blackmail you because you never cut him out of your life. Your wife left you because you refused to cut Jeffrey out of your life. I mean, that says something. That is a powerful statement right there. You're willing to give up your marriage. You're willing to give up half your multi-billion-dollar fortune because you want to stay friends with this guy? You're willing to say goodbye to your wife for this guy? There's only one reason, because that guy could destroy you. What's better, half your fortune or everything you own and your freedom, living the rest of your life in a federal penitentiary? I think we all know the answer.
You know, it just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I, apologize that I did that.
The problem is some of the things that he has sent and some of the information about other people that has come up in those files has been true. Why would he do this and say this about you, do you think?
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be. that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Is it frustrating to you, given what you've said, that this is now happening?
Not really. I mean, people should, hold people who are successful to a very high bar. And so, it's, as these documents come out, they're going to be closely scrutinized.
Okay, so Tanette Booth says that U9 refers to the Division for Kids Soccer. So U9 does mean under 9. So theoretically, that email could have been referring to a soccer pizza party. But of course, these are also people who hung out with Jeffrey Epstein. So they could have been using the term U9 in the context which I immediately took it to mean. But thank you, Tanette. All right, now, we also have an email from Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew to GMax. And it turns out, I didn't know this, but her two nephews both worked in the White House at different times. Alexander Gerasi worked in the White House as Hillary Clinton's chief of staff in the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs when she was at the State Department. And then Xavier Molina worked in the Barack Obama-Joe Biden administration. He also was working on the 2008 Barack Obama presidential campaign, worked directly for Obama in the White House. In 2002, he writes his aunt, Ghislaine, a wish list of actresses he would like to do nasty things to you. Now, families, they do different things. But I have never written my mother's sister and told her about nasty things that I would like to do to Hollywood actresses. Knowing what Ghislaine Maxwell did, trafficking girls, trafficking women, this seems more like a direct request to specifically engage in this behavior. I just lost a monitor, you guys. Hold on just a second. Oh, sweet. Okay, it's back. It's back. All right, so he says, hi, Aunt Ghislaine. Oh, and his subject is fairy godmother. Dear fairy godmother, meaning that she's probably going to bring him some treats. Hi, Aunt Ghislaine. I hope you are well. I look forward to seeing you when that might be. However, I'm not sure. I'll email you when I'm able to do something with you. As for my wish list of actresses I'd like to do nasty things to, he's quoting here, so that's a direct request from his Aunt Ghislaine. He says, though not complete, would probably look something like this. Number 1, Natalie Portman, Queen Amidala of the new Star Wars. Of course, Natalie Portman was very young at this time. Number 2, possibly Jennifer Love Hewitt, also pretty young at this time. And then number 3, Denise Richards. As for things I'd like to do, whether it be in London, New York, New Mexico, or the Caribbean, these are all places Jeffrey Epstein owned properties. The only thing he doesn't say is Paris. Not quite sure at all, though I will look into it. In New York, besides see the sights, possibly some theater or something of that sort. Anyway, I've got to run. Thank you very much for offering all of these things. All these things only add up to the reason I would be there to see you, your nephew, and we don't know which nephew it is. But I think that it's pretty obvious that this is, they're not like using this as code for anything other than what it is. So, I don't know, obviously she's got a number of nephews. We don't know which one it specifically is, but Xavier Molina allegedly also worked with Pete Buttigieg in 2019, right there. Fairly interesting. There's a Buttigieg connection to Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, do you guys know who Woody Allen is? Woody Allen groomed his adopted daughter, Sunyi Previn, molested her when she was a child, and then when she turned 18, he left Mia Farrow and married his adopted daughter, Sunyi Previn. So Sunyi Previn has been in the clutches of a pedophile for basically her entire life. Interestingly, because of she and Woody's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, she writes Jeffrey Epstein in September of 2016, opining the situation that Anthony Weiner finds himself in. Of course, Anthony Weiner was in trouble multiple times for sexting underage girls. She is sent an article from Jeffrey in the Daily Mail about Anthony Weiner carrying on a months-long sexual relationship with a troubled 15-year-old girl. Sunye Previn, again, a woman who was groomed as a girl and then married her adoptive father, disgusting, says, I know, it's an incredible story. You have to feel sorry for him. He can't seem to learn. Most importantly, I feel sorry for his wife, Huma Abedin. I also thought it was disgusting what the 15-year-old did to him. Here she is blaming the child for having an affair with a married adult man. I hate women who take advantage of of guys, and she is definitely one of them. She knew exactly what she was doing and how vulnerable Weiner was, and she reeled him in like fish to bait. It's also laughable when she says in her letter that she is putting it out there to help him. How does it help him? It only humiliates him. We know his excuse that he has a sickness. What is her excuse for being a despicable and disgusting person who preys on the weak? Spelled incorrectly. We know he's sick, but she's also sick to have done this to him. So manipulative on her part. She should be ashamed of herself. That is disturbing on so many levels. So many levels. Now, we also have learned about another associate of Jeffrey Epstein, Nicole Junkerman, don't exactly know how you pronounce it, but she's a British biotech investor. And she emailed Jeffrey Epstein basically talking about having a baby with him. So she writes him in June of 2010, and the subject is, will you have a baby with me? And then she says in the email body, where is the best place to do so? Now, Jeffrey Epstein doesn't reply. He just forwards it back on to her. But I think that the answer probably is yes. Now, we've known that Jeffrey Epstein was trying to sow his seed with as many beautiful women as possible to get his DNA out into the population. He had a eugenics program that was operating at Zorro Ranch. There could be any number of untold Epstein babies all around the world at this point. All right, we are almost done, but I have to get through these last stories. We've just learned before I went live that Prince Andrew was evicted from his royal mansion in the middle of the night without any sort of warning, and Prince Andrew is now homeless officially because of all of this new stuff that's come out. First, they took his title from him. He's no longer a prince. Then they took his original place where he was living and they put him up into another smaller location. Now they have taken that smaller mansion and he is apparently exiled to a farm in Sandringham. So Prince Andrew is not in a very good spot right now. The former Duke of York has relocated to Wood Farm, part of the King's Sandringham estate, where he awaits for renovations of his new home, Marsh Farm, to be completed. He had been expected to move before Easter, with his departure apparently hastened amid the release of these new files. Yep, good riddance to bad rubbish. Also, the ambassador for Norway has also been relieved of her duties after it came out in the Epstein files that 2 days before Jeffrey Epstein's death or removal from the prison, he changed his estate to leave millions of dollars to the children of this woman. So going back to the idea that Jeffrey Epstein had children with a number of women, I wonder if this woman right here, Mona Jewel, could potentially be one such woman that sired a child by Jeffrey Epstein, and leaving this money to her children is specifically for the fact that they actually were of Jeffrey Epstein's genetic lineage. So she was the Norwegian ambassador to Jordan and Iraq, and the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs is now investigating her due to her connections to Jeffrey Epstein. So this agreement was made after the State Department released these files, and they show this extensive contact that was happening between Epstein and Jewel and her husband. Now, among other things, Epstein left her 2 children $10 million in just the 2 days before his death. So now she has been fired, and she's now under criminal investigation. We also may today have the resignation of Keir Starmer, who is at this moment the Prime Minister of the UK. And let me very quickly see if that's actually happened yet, because it was expected to happen around 6 p.m. if it was going to. I am not seeing anything about it yet. However, in this interaction here, we're not going to watch the video because we don't have time. Keir Starmer admits that at the time that he put Peter Mandelson, Lord Peter Mandelson, up for the job in his government, that not only was he aware that Mandelson was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, but he knew that the relationship was deeper than he had publicly admitted. And he essentially blames Peter Mandelson for lying about just how cozy that relationship was. But it appears that Keir Starmer is prepping his second in command to take over, which is going to end up triggering elections, which may lead to Reform UK being brought to power in the UK, because everybody is done with immigration. Everybody is done with these elite pedophiles. And this would be the best thing that could possibly happen to the United Kingdom. Now, also, yesterday, the president of Colombia came to the White House, met with President Trump. Petro, what is his full name? Well, his last name is Petro. Petro met with President Trump, and he told him that the drug trafficking is not being directed out of Colombia. It's actually being directed out of places like Miami and Europe. He says the front line of drug trafficking is not what you imagine. The front line of drug trafficking lives in Dubai, in Madrid, in Miami. He is known to U.S. agencies. I passed their names on to President Trump. Their ties beyond themselves, meaning the people they work with in government, they are the bosses of bosses. Their capital is outside of Colombia, and it is necessary to pursue them jointly through an articulation of intelligence from many sectors of the world. And this is being proposed and is being done. That's why it's so important. I know that Woody Allen never adopted her, but he raised her as a father would. And he was present in her life since she was a small child. Mia Farrow was the one who actually adopted her, but Woody Allen was still present in her life when she was a small child. You can find the pictures of him like holding her in his lap when she's a little girl. All right, now we're going to go ahead and end it there because I feel like that's probably a good place to end it. All right, I've got no more gold pills over here. So let me go ahead and pass those out, and then I got to get going because I need to eat some dinner, and then I'm going to be on Altered State with Brad at 9 p.m. Woody is alive. Yes, barely hanging on, I would imagine. The guy is old as shit. But either way, hope you can join me tonight at 9 p.m. on Badlands Media for an episode of Altered State with Brad and I, or if you don't care for that, just be here tomorrow at 5 because we will have undoubtedly another stimulating episode of Red Pill News Live for you right here on Red Pill 78. Don't forget about the final sponsors of the program. All of them are listed in the links in the description of this video. onenessdrops.com/redpill78. You can save 15% off single items of their chlorine dioxide water purification kits. Chlorine dioxide is great for a whole host of things. You should watch The Universal Antidote if you've never dived into what it can do for you. You should also check out mypillow.com. Use the code RP78. Link is in the description. Save up to 80% on Mike Lindell's amazing American-made products. Head on over to consciousstrength.net/RP78 to save 10% on their methylene blue and all of the other American-made health products that Jordan makes over there, including collagen, electrolytes, greens, vitamin C, and a whole host of other things, including DMSO, which you can also get at Oneness Drops. Over at rncstore.com/RP78, you can save 10% off their Laetrile, B17, bitter raw apricot seeds, apricot oil, all of the apricot products. And finally, my friends over at goallgood.com/redpill78. And don't forget, they have a special sale right now on Valentine's Day. When you purchase any of their bundles and use the code REDPILL78, you'll get the discount, and you'll also get a free sample of their tallow sunscreen. And this is all natural tallow, an American-made products. So check it out. Good luck. God bless. I will see you guys on the next one.